Hi, everyone. I am very happy to welcome back Ola Wolny for another exciting discussion on the zodiac mechanism. Ola's focus is on feminine alchemy and how critically studying astrology can provide clues to understanding the matrix. Ola is from Poland and has a background in engineering and currently lives in Norway, where she guides Arctic tours. Ola, thank you for being here today. How are you?
Hello and hello everybody. I thank you so much for having me back. I am great, very excited. I really appreciate all the feedback and questions following part one. So I'm really grateful that I have the opportunity to come and chat a little bit more today.
Yes, today is going to follow more of a Q&A, and we're going to dive deeper into the topic of feminine alchemy and engage with the audience, answer some audience questions, as well as a few more questions that I have as well. So Ola's website, as shown here, is selfmasteryquest.com. And Ola also has another website called mysticalarcticjourneys.com, where, like we said, she guides Arctic tours. So I would like to start with a couple introductory questions. First off, just with this picture here with the northern lights over Lofoten Islands, where you live in Norway, and I'm sure that you enjoy the northern lights as much as, of course, we can only see them on pictures, but you can see them live in real time. I'd like to ask first, what, in your opinion, from your own research, or we can say your intuition, what do you think, Ola, is the significance or spiritual meaning behind the aurora or the northern lights, if any? They're so beautiful and they've sparked human imagination. What does the aurora or the northern lights mean to you?
Brilliant question. And guys, I can promise you that this picture doesn't do justice. We have shows like that very often here during the winter months. And the reason, of course, why I organize these tours is because the region where I live, the region where I am, is very, very special, very, very magical. If you dig a little bit into even the official narrative, the official information of this region, you will see that according to science, we have the oldest in the world and the youngest in the world rock formations, mountain formations here in Lofoten. So isn't that quite weird that the oldest and the youngest coexist? Or should we ask, are we really looking at rocks, or are we looking at something else? And this is part of my tours, because what I help people discover here are the pyramids, which are very, very old, obviously much older than the ones in Egypt, or the ones that have much wider marketing, so-called trees of Eden. So the giant trees, the trees that underwent process of petrification. So they kind of look like rocks. They look like mountains, but that's not what they are. When you know, you know. And you guys have have those kind of trees in the US as well. The Devil's Tower, for example. So this region is very, very special. Very magical. Corresponding legends and mythology is it's amazing, and everything is weaved sort of with the theme of alchemy. So this is why I invite people to come over and experience this. And of course, Northern Lights in the winter seasons are part of this experience. We start the season from about October. And so they can be seen probably until early March. It kind of depends on temperatures, it depends on the weather, and of course on the visibility. But I think when we step away a little bit from that scientific, physics-based narrative that explains what northern lights are, and again engage a little bit with that mystical aspect, alchemical aspect, which is also reflected here in the region. It's the Arctic where I am. It's part of the Arctic Circle. So obviously we have the indigenous people here and their stories. We have the legends. We have all sorts of mythology, which also has themes of northern lights, and sort of that story is included there. And if we look into that, we find out that northern lights are very much linked to the center of the earth, as in if you sort of go to that true north, the local beliefs are talking about, I think we spoke about it last time. I don't remember if we did. I think we did, that it's kind of like an inverted volcano, right? As in there's right, there's some kind of sort of in the center, if you like, in the center of the earth, or in the center of the at the North Pole, we have, according to the local legends or beliefs, we sort of have an entrance into the inner earth. And the northern lights are said to be connected with certain sort of energies that are depending on, and you see the sun activity is again misunderstood or misinterpreted. It is to do with the sun activity, but the sun is not just a star somewhere out there. It is very much, it's a portal. It's another very conscious being, which is sort of, there is a sort of energetic dance between the earth and the sun. So the northern lights end up being sort of emanations of certain energies and certain exchanges between this place of the sort of inner earth, and of course this is why they are visible here in the north, and the sun. And probably many people have heard or observed in the recent months, I think it became much more common, that there's been some fake northern lights present. Those northern lights extend very, very much south. They are visible across sort of Central Europe. I think there was something that you guys in the States could observe in the.
I saw it here. The sky was purple, and bright purple in the Chicago night sky. It was very visible here earlier this year.
Exactly, and you see, it's no big surprise, because we obviously have very active HARP operations, and we have very active military operations trying to sort of, I would say, piggyback to some of these processes, or perhaps mimic them, and of course running a lot of operations to hijack some of this, trying to hijack some of these energies. One of the interesting things that probably not many people know is that here where I live, literally 60 kilometers across the fjord in a sort of straight line, we have a NASA facility here, and they are working with HARP right here.
Look at that.
Absolutely. And we also have plenty of military bases. So, whenever, I mean, for those who know, when whenever there is a military presence in the region, it's not for no reason. And of course, there is a sort of overall story, the official narrative story, why they are here, but it's so much of it. It's so much. And we know, when you are a local, and some people are employed at those facilities. So there are stories when you can put them together. We know what's going on here. We know that this region is extremely special, and this is why the military, this is why NASA are interested specifically in this region. So including obviously the Northern Lights operations, which of course the same happens in Alaska, the same happens in the sort of northern territories, right? But here, specifically Lofoten area, very, very strong military presence.
Wow, yeah. But at least the real Northern Lights, not any fake ones from HARP, but the pure, real, natural ones, let's say, would be, like you said, a colorful, beautiful, these ribbons in the sky, a display of the, let's say, celestial dance between the sun and the earth, specifically inner earth. So,
absolutely, it is linked to that, but I think we probably don't appreciate how much that dance is connected or linked to us, especially us
yes.
women. Because you see, last year in November, I had an event here, as in I had a sort of Arctic getaway with about 13 people, and we were out in Lofoten area, and we spent a week there. And part of that event was me talking about the Northern Lights and what they are, and sort of explaining the women's role in ability to connect or even cause the Northern Lights, because Northern Lights are effectively a manifestation of certain energies. So if you are able to sort of bring those energies about, you're gonna have Northern Lights. So we have been doing certain things with the ladies, and we had several days of a perfect sky with Northern Lights, like crazy Northern Lights. Yeah, I mean, nobody will prove or disprove, but I know what the ladies have been doing.
Wow, that is amazing. And today we're going to definitely get into more of that feminine alchemy and the things that ladies can do, and how that could help not only us, obviously, but the world at large. So speaking of your Arctic journeys, right, the mystical Arctic journeys, what upcoming plans do you have for 2025 in terms of your Arctic tours?
Well, a very good question. I usually try to have a sort of more organized group events, probably once or twice a year. So definitely there will be one of those coming up when we come out of winter time. But I also run more private tours. I also opened up for more of a sort of private experiences. So people coming in small groups or couples or even individuals. Yeah, I just had one of those, for example, with two men. So I'm specifically mentioning that because I think sometimes maybe it might come across as I only cater to the ladies. No, I absolutely can and cater to everyone. So I just had two very nice gentlemen wanting to explore these deeper and undergo a transformation, personal transformation. So I had a week-long tour for them as well. And that's going to continue next year. So whether it is more within that individual capacity or whether somebody wants to join an organized event, they will continue. And please have a look at my Mystical Arctic Journeys website if you would like to come and experience what I'm describing. Just reach out and we can organize that. I always work with the individuals to sort of come up with the program, duration, the dates, etc., and the budget, because of course not everybody is on the same budget. So I try to make sure that we can organize an experience so that people can come and witness these things for themselves. And it's not just about witnessing, because there is many beautiful places across the world, but the energy of this place, there is clearly something very, very special here. And anyone who traveled here, anyone who came here, when they leave, they can testify to that. They can confirm that there's something very special with the energy, that they, you are going to be in the presence of those ancient trees. You are going to be in the presence of energy centers, ancient primordial energy centers. That is extremely cleansing energy. I would argue that no therapy in the world, no sort of concepts and techniques of healing, because we do that for months and years on, and we still could be doing more of that, whereas probably there are ways to shift certain things and transform within us that are very much linked to the nature, or they happen through the nature, because we are not disconnected from it. We cannot be sitting here talking about the northern lights, talking about the energy of the earth, about the connection, about us being part of this ecosystem, and still be disconnected and not understand how it all affects us, how it can heal us. That is the biggest secret, probably, that's been in some way taken away from us.
Yes. So for our viewers, if you're interested in a transformative and cleansing experience, definitely consider mysticalarcticjourneys.com for a visit to Lofoten Islands in northern Norway. That's northern Norway, correct?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
The northern Norway, we are here within the Arctic Circle, so about 68 to 70 degrees up north, or for the flat Earth, it is to the circle, in the middle, right?
Yes.
So yeah, we are pretty much up there. I would certainly recommend on many levels. There are also certain phenomena that you can only experience when you are here because of this exposure, because we are so far north. So for example, when I tell people that the sun has changed position, or the sun has changed the angle or the intensity, that maybe is not so visible if you live in more sort of central location, like in the Central Europe or in America. But when you get all the way up north, and we get this sort of polarity with Arctic day and night, things become magnified. So you can observe certain things for yourself very, very clearly.
I can definitely testify to that. Even when I traveled years ago to London, and before that to Ireland, simply being in that different latitude, closer up north, even though those cities in London and in Dublin obviously aren't as high up north as Lofoten Islands, but I can sense this difference, and the sky wouldn't, just the fact that it would be like 9 o'clock at night and it's like still bright outside. That was very different and interesting for me, but that phenomenon of the sun, the angle and all that, it's very, it wasn't even just, like you said, it's not just the scientific aspect of it, but there was definitely something spiritual about it, and it's hard to describe.
Absolutely. And I think another surprise, a big surprise for people who come here, whether that's in the summer or in the winter, I think maybe mostly in the summer, is how warm it is here. And it's funny thing, because that may not necessarily translate to the temperature that you see on the thermometer, but the feeling, literally. I had an event in June. It was middle of June, or so I don't remember exactly the dates, but it was a week in June, and it was hot every single day. We were sunbathing every single day, going to the beach, bathing in the water. There were days where people, some of the ladies, and they were from the US, they were from Germany, they were from the UK. They got burned they got burned in the Arctic Norway.
Really? Wow.
Absolutely. In June. So they could not believe how strong the sun is here. And I strongly believe that we are obviously not told the truth about this realm. So I believe that because we have this sort of entrance to the inner earth, not that far from here, I believe that this whole notion of, the more north it gets colder, etc., that's a lie. Okay, I'm not saying that it's hot here. This is not Egypt for sure, but you would be very surprised. You would be very, very surprised. Come here in June, July, and you will be very surprised. Hopefully the weather is good, because that's another thing. We have experienced a lot of weather engineering here, a lot of weather being ruined. So unfortunately, I cannot guarantee anymore. But when we have good weather, you will be shocked what Arctic summer looks like. And just have a look at my website, because I have been using images specifically from Lofoten area. These are real images of the landscapes, of the beaches that we have here. It looks like Caribbean.
Ola was a guest speaker this past summer at the Astronosis 3 conference at the Theosophical Society of Chicago, hosted by Gnostic Radio. I'll leave a link in the description if you haven't watched it already, but I'm guessing the viewers have definitely watched it. That conference was one of the reasons that inspired me to reach out to Ola, because she ran out of time. And I'd like to, I wanted to give Ola pretty much a chance to, or an opportunity to expand on the very curious, brilliant, fascinating ideas that she brought up. And I wanted to ask, as the last of our introductory questions, are there any other major conferences coming up that we should look out for, or do you have upcoming books or updates?
As for conferences, I have not yet been confirming any appearances. I potentially would probably show up again at Astronosis. Other than that, I cannot confirm anything at this point. But on the book front, I have been asked many times over the past sort of 2-3 years about putting something in writing, because it's one thing to be doing interviews, and it's another thing when you kind of can really explain certain things and go deep and connect everything, which perhaps it's not so easy in a sort of speaking engagement. So I've been feeling very, very strongly guided the last month to do that. So funny enough, I've been working on 3 ebooks. I think they're gonna end up being ebooks, and one of them is specifically on the alchemy, on the feminine alchemy. I am trying to write it in a sort of digestible form, as in very strong emphasis on the role of women, on the aspect of menstruation and menopause, how important these are. I believe that women have no idea truly who we are and what are we really constructed for. And please do not think that I sort of mean it in any bad way, because the alchemy is literally I would say it's literally the age-old version of quantum physics. And I will explain that in my ebook, because we are wired and built and constructed as women to access certain, well, what quantum physics would call fields of unlimited potential. And we have the capacity as women to birth these realities here on Earth and into our lives. So that is the topic of one of my ebooks. The other one is going to actually cover Lofoten. So what we've just discussed, I'm going to explain the legends. I'm going to go much deeper into exactly what you can experience in this region, and why is this region so special. And finally, the third one would be more on the matrix code, astrology, numerology, trauma. How is it all linked together? Why trauma is trauma, programming, conditioning, repeating cycles, etc. Why are these the tools of the matrix to keep us trapped? And finally, I think I am going to also write something on shamanism, because unfortunately, from what I've seen, the true shamanism has been butchered and is misunderstood. There is a very strong notion in the sort of New Age arena around shamanism and this sort of new version of shamanism, which is just really doing injustice to the true tradition. So that's yeah, it's a lot of writing, but that's what I've started on already. So very excited about that, and all that is going to be coming out. Well, I'm really looking at January. From January going onwards, because obviously I cannot bring everything to fruition at the same time. But the alchemical one, I am really looking to have ready from January.
It's really fascinating what you said about the quantum realm, the quantum fields, quantum mechanics, quantum physics. Studying quantum physics for me, I basically was forced to, because the more out-of-body experiences I had, the more I realized I had to study quantum physics. I come from a biology background, but
Right.
it was clear to me, as I'm sure it became clear to you, that studying quantum physics is not only necessary, but I was almost called to it from my intuition, because especially when you talked about the field of unlimited potential. Oh my goodness, Ola. So I've been diagramming what I've been learning from my observations, as well as comparing it to quantum mechanics, trying to, get my own understanding from it. And it's so fascinating. I have these like three main fields, let's say. And of course, this is just my preliminary understanding. I'm sure that you are going to have your own viewpoint, and I'm very excited about your upcoming ebook. But the field of, so I called it, how I wrote it down was the field of pure potentiality.
Yeah.
Then the field of probability or possibility, and then the field of certainty. The field of certainty is closer to the physical realm, where in quantum mechanics, they call it, the collapse of the probability waves.
Absolutely.
So things are in probability first, and then they become what I call certainty.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, as we know, in the Matrix, it's often a certainty that we don't like, or that we don't, or we didn't agree to, or
very good point. And you're probably thinking, well, why is that, right? I don't want that outcome. I want a different outcome. If I can connect to the waves of possibility, once they collapse into a singular event, it better be the one that I want, right? And why is it not? Why is it not? And you see, this is precisely what I am going to try to explain in the ebook, and I will try to say something about it now, but it is quite a complex thing, which actually goes back to the sort of level to say it the easiest, it is linked to the level of programming, traumas, as in a level of vibration that we carry. But please do not get turned off. I do not mean to go into the New Age, because New Age hijacks this concept and it exploits it, and it kind of takes it on to the wrong, misinterpreted version. This is very much to do with a lot of those things. You'll be very surprised, are not a question of us choosing the outcome, or it is not a question of us needing to make a certain, I would say, like, intention. What is it that you want? We think that that's how it works. That's how the mind works. That's how the mind works. But in reality, we are disconnected from that field. Matrix has capped, in a way, our access to the higher vibrational aspect of this field, meaning we can talk in a context of quantum physics about the field of unlimited potential, but here in this matrix we do not have access to field of unlimited potential. We are limited. If we had access to the field of unlimited potential, astrology, numerology would not work. I would not be able to tell you anything about your life, because you have access to unlimited potential, which means I cannot in any way quantify or guess. So why can I? Because you don't. Because you are not connecting to the field of unlimited potential. It is just it becomes just something that exists within quantum physics, but effectively we do not have access to that. Why? Because there is this element of determination. We are under the dome. We are being controlled. There is a mechanism that is streaming certain frequencies on our third eye, on our, it sort of divides our energy, the central energy field, into through the chakras into smaller sort of portions of energies, and those are controlled as well. So there is an external mechanism which limits your access to unlimited field of potential, which is precisely what the alchemy is based on. How do we get back? How can we reconnect to that full potential field? But by default, especially if you're totally unaware, especially if you have no idea what's going on, you are not connected to the field of unlimited potential. So when that wave of possibility collapses, the outcome is going to be favorable for the matrix, not necessarily for you.
Yes, exactly. I forgot which interview it was, but there was an interview, I'm not sure if it was Tony Sayers, it probably was, where you introduced that as your central argument, your central thesis, that there's a reason why zodiac resonates with so many people and can predict so many things with a pretty decent accuracy, and it's because that it's part of this zodiac mechanism. It's just like, as you said, it's because we are not directly connected to that field of unlimited potential. So of course you can say, oh, so this is your sign, this is your birth chart, this is your whatever, and I can predict certain things about your career, your business, your personality, things like that. And when you introduced that was so fascinating. I was like, I got to talk to her eventually. But this is why discussions like this are so inspiring, not only for me, but for our viewers, because we appreciate the incorporation of science into these studies of, let's call it spirituality. I really call it just understanding nature.
Yeah.
in its deepest sense, in a way that science alone and spirituality alone may fall short. But when you bring those two perspectives together, like we are doing, an engineer and a biologist discussing the matrix, right? I think that's where magic can happen. So
Yeah, and absolutely, and I think that you just nailed it. That I like to walk between worlds. I like to have one foot in these spiritual sort of aspects, but to have the other foot in that kind of grounded approach. I don't even like to call it necessarily scientific, because we know that science is controlled as well. So there is no true science. There is no wild science out there that is truly serving the purpose here. There is science that looks as whatever they want it to look. So
yes.
So I think we have to be a little bit careful here. But let's call it just being grounded and sort of questioning certain things, having that discernment and having that scientific scrutiny approach, right? So that we are trying to make both sides meet. And that's pretty much where I've been coming from. So whatever I work with, whatever I try to explain, I always like to look for the explanation or some kind of correspondence, well, through that scientific lens, through that real engineering kind of based, technology based approach. And funny enough, I was able to find it. So
Yes.
this is why I think it's quite powerful when you make both meet.
Yes, I definitely agree. I think it's very funny that you said that you like to keep one foot in, one world and one foot in another. It's so fascinating, because that's actually my not motto, but that's my description in my YouTube about page. I literally say, for my about me, I only have one sentence: I am at the bridge between worlds.
Right, there you go. Right, that's I
So,
think it's I think it kind of keeps things real when you try to do that. And of course we there is an element around it that just because we think that's what we do doesn't necessarily guarantee that we will arrive at some deep truth. But because everything, I mean, Jesus, everything in this realm is upside down and it's distorted. So whatever we believe to be the ultimate truth or some kind of reference point may not be. It may be just something that they want us to believe, right? I mean, that's the same happens with all the philosophies. The same happens with the ancient texts. Those have been tampered with. The original intent has been distorted. Very often, ancient texts or the philosophies, they have been very much following suit with patriarchy. So the original intent, which wouldn't have been written in the spirit of patriarchy, but suddenly that's what they have been very heavily influenced by. So if somebody is not aware of that, if somebody is not aware that pretty much everything that's out there in public, including things that look very good, are already part of the agenda written by the victors, not by the losers, it's going to be very difficult to really arrive at that final conclusion, that final truth. So I think that this is not as simple as following science and following spirituality. There are certain other layers that you have to be aware of, certain other ways to really recognize the illusion, or recognize the delusion, and how we could be played, and being able to also navigate through that.
and the beautiful and at the same time challenging thing is, that's the journey, right? I always think of it as, or I think of it in terms of momentum versus stagnancy. We've all been at the point where we realized we were deceived. The point is, what did we decide to do at that moment, right?
Yeah.
I've spoken with Christians who, even in my own family, who say, I know that, this part of the Bible is not true at all, but I choose to still believe in it for XYZ personal reason, or I choose to still go to church for and that's their personal choice, or their, and even New Agers, we can talk endlessly about that. The point is, for me, momentum versus stagnancy. We obviously weren't born knowing exactly, what is deceptive, we had to learn it through this process. So, and it's a continual process. So, obviously we're still going to, 10 years from now, we're going to have an expanded, hopefully, an expanded view, in terms of learning more. I'm sure as you write your and complete your upcoming projects, your ebooks, even in that, it will still be bringing in more information, not only to the audience, but as well to you. So it's this process of continual learning and growth. And, unfortunately, for the matrix traps, I always like to tell people, the system is in a way already rigged against us. So the very fact, though, that we know about that gives me inspiration.
Absolutely. And I would probably add to that, that for me, it's a process of actually, I always say it's not so much about the growth and about the development, because I think this is how they want to look at ourselves all the time, which is, you're imperfect, you need to grow, you need to learn, you need to evolve, etc.
Yes.
which kind of puts us in that position of infantile child, and we are so imperfect, we have to keep working on ourselves. Whereas actually I see it differently. I see that we are at the core, and that we are already our full potential. It's already here with us. The problem is we are wrapped into trauma, programs, conditioning, and that staying wrapped in that is the problem. And because you see, when you gave me this example with the Bible, right, that people, some Christians or in your family, they are aware that certain parts of the Bible don't make sense, or perhaps they disagree with that, but they choose to stay and follow the rest, or continue to go to church, right? That is, to me, still dictated by the level of programming and the level of conditioning that they are not aware of. You don't know what you don't know, right? So to me, the real work is taking off the layers. It is not evolving. It's sort of it's almost kind of coming back to the core, becoming just the core, getting rid of everything that's sort of unpeeling the onion. It's being implosive, not explosive, not evolving. I want to come back to the core. The core is pure. The core has no programs. The core has no trauma that it's living out of, trying to protect itself, right? Because a lot of people who are presented with new information will continue to go down the path of the old information. Why? Because of fear. It's fear. It's fear of the unknown, and it's wanting to stay in the comfort zone. So that's where the reptilian brain comes in, right? Where is this programming coming from? Very often it comes down purely to the survival and fear. That's where they want us to operate. As long as we operate from survival and fear, we will not see very far. We will be stuck in those very sort of basic behaviors, and we will that's as far as it gets from sort of expanding consciousness, right? And seeing past these illusions and past these obstacles,
and keeping you trapped in the reincarnation cycle. because then, like you said, you think that you always have more work to do. There's always more growth, always more. Oh, I need to go back and live another life to work on this or that, and it's like, no, you're complete as you are, and it's just that we're unfolding that like a lotus flower blooming. And I saw this funny meme. What you said sparked this memory, how it's not so much about the journey, and we shouldn't like just focus on that continual progress. It goes back to what you said. I saw this meme many years ago, back when I knew nothing about this, but it just has always stuck with me. There's this online meme where it says, okay, here's the list of zodiac signs who do this one thing, and here's a list of this other zodiac signs who do the other. And the question was, are you someone that is more focused on the journey, or do you just want the gold in the end, the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow? Are you more focused on the destination and the goal rather than the journey?
Right. Yeah. Right.
Signs that were most like, oh no, we like the friendships that we make along the way of the journey, and then the other zodiac signs were like, hell no, we want the gold, we want the destiny.
Yeah, the positive spin of the journey, the positive spin of the suffering. Enjoy the suffering.
Yes, but again, it's just interesting that it goes back to those zodiac signs, the zodiac mechanism. Why is it that certain people have those personality types that are like, no, I want the destination, and other people are like, la-di-da, I like the ups and downs of the roller coaster journey along the way. And it's like, nope. So I just found that interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
So our next segment of the interview, we're going to show some audience questions from our first interview that we had a couple months ago. I will leave a link in the description so you guys can reference that. But we have some audience questions that I selected from the comment section. And we definitely would like to hear what Ola's insights are on these questions. So the first question from a commenter asks, so where do we escape to, in reference of, the concept of escaping the matrix? If for eons we have identified with these human bodies, it's hard to even imagine going anywhere else. Where would you go? And it's interesting because personally, I can think of, 100 or maybe 1,000 better places to be than as a limited Homo sapien. But that's probably just because I have my own vivid imagination, my own, creativity. Even just reading fictional books, that's a whole world of its own. But Ola, what's your opinion? If you were to escape, let's say, quote unquote, escape the matrix, where would you go?
So I think part of the problem is the misunderstanding of what escaping the matrix is about. Because escaping the matrix, it's not about where to go, as in, oh, come to Norway, we've escaped the matrix here. It's not a place. It's not. This is not a physical place. Matrix
with coordinates.
Exactly right. Matrix, being in the matrix, or matrix programming, the code of the matrix is not about being trapped in a physical place per se. It is about being trapped in mind control, in as in being subjected to very heavy frequency control, which makes you perceive your reality in a certain way, which specifically as a result of that frequency control, you do not have access to the plethora of possibilities. You do not have access to that field of unlimited potential that we spoke about before. So Matrix is a place of very limited resources, very limited possibilities. This is why it gives that feel of a computer game, because it's like if you play a computer game in the 80s or 90s, the old versions, you did not have unlimited moves to make. If you made the wrong moves, the game would end over there. You would have to go back and, instead of turning to the right, you would have to turn to the left. This is kind of the way this realm is designed. This is why astrology, numerology work, because it's only a limited number of scenarios. It is like a tree of possibilities. And yeah, you can choose left or right at some point and then again and again, but it is not an unlimited version of possibilities. So you do not escape to a physical different place. You escape the mind control. You escape, as in I always describe the matrix, the sort of interface is more like wearing goggles. We have those goggles now. You can put goggles and you kind of feel like you're in a computer game, or you can buy those goggles, right? Some kind of goggles they now sell, and it's
the VR headset.
Yes, exactly. These kind of headsets. Well, I'm really up to date with technology in the Matrix, but yeah, that you can buy, and it's literally you kind of having that kind of virtual experience, right? I mean, people end up smashing their kitchens or whatnot windows because they really believe they're in some kind of game, right? They fighting some attackers or whatnot, whatever that kind of whatever you are doing with that headset, and the Matrix is working in a kind of very similar way, as in it gives you an illusion of a certain experience, but the point is take off the goggles, and you don't need to escape anywhere. You are still in the same place. I always give this analogy of the Avatar. Everybody's talking about the Matrix being documentary. Look at Avatar. Avatar is another documentary, and especially the first part that I always refer to. We have the blue people who are living on Pandora, right? This beautiful planet. They living in symbiosis with this planet. There is a tree of life motif, of course, the tree of ancestors. They can connect. They live in symbiosis with nature, with the animals. They deeply spiritual, and they get invaded by humans, obviously looking for some kind of mineral, right? Which is pretty much the story what happened here, right? I mean, this is the official story of what happened with the Anunnaki attack. Of course, they flipped it around, so people are the aggressors and the other are the sort of benevolent race. But my point is, you see, people in the movie showing up, of course, trying to gain something, trying to exploit this place, thinking about in the category of money, thinking about what they can gain, which these are typical Matrix kind of behaviors, right? These are typical behaviors, that kind of competition and aggression, wanting to dominate. These are the Matrix kind of behaviors. And then you have this other race who is fully benevolent. They just living their life. So what I'm trying to say here is that when you take off the goggles, when you take off this Matrix code, you start seeing this earth. You're not getting anywhere physically. You're not going physically anywhere. You start seeing the earth again as Pandora. you start seeing that we are part of an ecosystem from which we have been disconnected. You start seeing the northern lights, that's what we started talking about, as for what they really are. You start seeing how we are part of a bigger ecosystem with the sun, with the earth, that they are sentient beings, that we are the children of the earth, we're the children of the sun. We are literally kind of like the blue people on Pandora. This is what you escape into. You start seeing this place for what it truly is, for what we have been ripped away from and fashioned with these goggles so that we would not see it. And why is it so important? Because when we are connected, when we are reconnected truly as part of this ecosystem, this is where feminine alchemy comes in as well, because that's how feminine alchemy operates. We start having access to that field of plenty. We start having the ability to weave our own destiny. Isn't that the concept that's spoken about in every mythology, that there are those fates? Right, there are those goddesses, or they call differently in different mythologies, but they are the ones who govern fate. These are no goddesses, these are no separate sort of forces. This is a perfect, beautiful reference to a woman in her alchemy. Why is it always three? And somehow we have three aspects in feminine alchemy. It's a woman, alchemical woman becomes the weaver of her own destiny. She becomes the one who can connect to the field of unlimited potential. That's specifically what alchemy means. Alchemy comes from Egyptian alchem, alcheme or alchem, where chem means black or blackness. And funny enough, because in Arabic, chem means prosperity. It means abundance. And in Hebrew, the word, I think the word was rechem. Rechem means the womb. So look at the core word and the etymology in variety of languages, and it's linking prosperity, the womb, and blackness. Blackness, when you explore that blackness through quantum physics and also through the accounts of the indigenous people, the Mayans, for example, we know what this blackness is. This blackness is going back to what quantum physics calls the dark energy, dark matter, the black holes. And even our quantum physics is catching up, now claiming that all matter, everything in this universe, the universes, the solar system, etc., have been created out of black holes, which means they call them the wombs of creation.
Yes.
So you see, we escape not physically, but we escape the matrix, we escape that programming, we escape that limited, predetermined reality, which is kind of like the computer game. And we start seeing, we take off the goggles and we start seeing again Pandora, as in the planet, you know, from obviously not the box of Pandora, but the planet from Avatar. So we see this world for what it truly is. Pandora has never left. This world is still what it used to be before we put on the goggles, or before the goggles have been put on us. It wasn't even so long ago. It wasn't even so long ago. The fact that we have this matrix here is obviously the result of a specific actions of those that came here, called the Anunnaki or the reptilians or the gods, and created this realm to harvest our energy, to be able to it's a little bit complicated than just harvesting energy. David Icke talks about it, for example, but it is very much about creating their own worlds and sort of getting something out of it. And women have been used in this process. So women, instead of women have lost that ability to connect to that field of plenty, to that quantum field of unlimited possibility, and we have been reduced to be able to birth realities only at a very low vibrational level. So guess what? This world is full of fear. It is full of wars. Of course, these are engineered. It is full of suffering. It is full of hate, illness. This is not a world of a loving, benevolent force behind it. Why? Well, because we have engaged in the Matrix game. We have put on the goggles and we have forgotten how to take them off.
It's interesting because I commented like a one sentence, extremely shortened version of what you just said. That
oh, beautiful! I need to see that sentence.
I probably should have put a screenshot. Of course, it wasn't as beautifully elaborate and full of explanation as you just said. But I basically said, it's not that there's anywhere to quote unquote escape to. It's more that we are taking off the virtual reality goggles.
Absolutely.
And waking back up to that higher state of that higher state of perception, because simply, not that it's simple, but simply going out of body, for me, I can see, for example, or I can perceive colors that I don't have, that there's no name for here, that we learned back in grade school or anything, back in kindergarten. There's, for example, there's a color that I specifically see. The best way I can describe it is maybe a blue orange, but it's not that. It's beyond that, but it's something that I can't explain. And obviously, as a fellow scientist, you know that we only see a very, very small sliver.
That was exactly what I was going to say, right? That
our visible spectrum.
Absolutely, that our visible light spectrum bandwidth is extremely narrow, and even the animals around us have wider spectrum.
Yes.
So this is why your cats, I have 2 cats myself, and you know, I catch them watching things that just for me are not there. There is nothing to look at.
Yes.
But they are very much following something, and they can see our energy field. They can see so much more. We have been limited on so many levels. Literally, you know, even when I talk about black holes or this blackness, right? Even that is an inaccurate term, because it is not black. What is black? Black is something that's outside of our perception. So we cannot actually, our capacity of sort of detection of color just cannot process certain frequencies. So it kind of sees it as black. Is interpreted as black? That's not what it means. It is too high vibration for us to be able to interpret, because it's outside of our spectrum. So what's in there, right? So what's really in there? What is it that we don't see, but it's there?
This is extremely important for me as a biologist. Hawks, birds of prey, can see ultraviolet. Snakes can see in the infrared. Sharks can detect the electric field. Bees can sense the magnetic field. Dogs can hear a whistle that humans cannot perceive at all with our limited decibel range. And, you know, here we are trying to navigate this world, right?
Here we are thinking that we're the smartest.
Exactly. I really liked how you answered this question, and you know, and I really wanted to bring this kind of question to the forefront, because I get this kind of question quite often. Like, all right, well, we're in the Matrix, you know, supposedly, but what else is there to do besides being in this limited human state? You know, I hear that so often, maybe not so often, but I guess more often than I would like. Because again, for me, it's like, can't you even, or is it so impossible to imagine even something as simple as, okay, well, if I wasn't so busy this holiday season, what would I do? Oh, I'd probably go and visit Norway.
Right.
I'd probably take Ola up on her Arctic tours. It's like even something as simple as that. Like, is it so difficult for people to, uh, even guess, even imagine something, anything better than this? And it could be like what this commenter asked. We've just been here, we've identified that they said that they've identified with these human forms for so long that they can no longer imagine, or at least that it's very difficult for them to. But
you see, for me, the problem is not the human form. Like, what's wrong with that? I have no idea with my body. What I do have a problem with is the fact that I am going to be decided over by some kind of mechanism. When is a good time for me to start something, or maybe finish something, or maybe that I shouldn't be focusing on this thing because I will never be successful over there because that's just not my thing. I should focus on that thing, and there's gonna be, for example, a certain theme in my life that's going to repeat itself constantly, which is obviously designed specifically to hold me back or to detour me from whatever I want to be doing. Why do I have to? That is my problem. That is my problem, because I don't, maybe really people need to spend time a little bit more in the nature, away from the concrete jungle, away from the computers, phones, etc. Because I think that we are missing the beauty of this place, and I don't want to call it magic, because I think I'm going to be misunderstood, but I think that whoever can just spend some time in the nature, like go away for a weekend and be in the nature and disconnect from your phone, from your computer, from your TV, etc. Just be out there, and you will start reconnecting with this ecosystem. You will see how rewarding and healing that is, and you will see that the problem is not your body. Everybody wants to be, I don't know, ascended or out of their body. What's the problem with the body? What is the problem is not being in the body. The problem is having the goggles on. That's the problem. That's the sort of critical issue here. And I think that when we sort of understand that this world that we are so desperately looking for, this better world, it's already here. We don't need a new earth. We have the old earth. The old earth, as in the earth before they put this dome over us, before they put goggles on our minds, right? That's what we need. So I don't have a problem with the human form, and in terms of what to do. This is I think this is like throwing the towel. I think this is kind of a bit a position of someone who actually doesn't really understand where we are. If you go to my website or anywhere on sort of my Facebook, etc., there is a quote that I absolutely love. And this is pretty much the reason why I'm speaking to you right now, and why I have been speaking about certain things for 2.5 years openly. And that quote says, "There is no greater victory than to fall from this world a free man." This is the reason for living. This is enough for me.
I'd like to end this question with an example that I think that especially listeners that are into sports can, I guess, vibe with. This example came to me because I agree with you. I picked up this feeling of throwing in the towel. You said this throw in the towel kind of, because I've been seeing that in the comments, like, oh, but what's there to do? What's there to escape? All the, and here's an example. Let's say you are a quarterback of your favorite football team, and you guys have been wanting to win the Super Bowl for years. You're so close. You're almost, at that finish line, about to score a touchdown. And then right when you're there, you hesitate and stop and say, I don't know what it's like to win a Super Bowl. I don't know what it's like to not be a victor. Maybe I don't know. Is there really anything to do? Is there any? Of course, for some people, they're like, well, I know exactly what I'm going to do with my Super Bowl victory. But even if you don't let that stop you from crossing the finish line, because that is quite literally what I saw. Some spirits, hesitating in that last moment and like, well, there's nothing more familiar to me than being in this limited human state. And I agree with you. It's not necessarily the human form in and of itself. It's our limitations that were put on us from the VR, let's say, from the goggles, as you pointed out. But the point is, this hesitation, this worry, this, maybe there's nothing better to do than to be in this, what we call the, how you put it before, this infantile state, indefinitely. And it's like, and, I'm getting that sense too, that, these questions similar to this, it does come off to me as a throw in the towel as well. It's okay to ask these kind of questions. My concern is, or my hope is that at the final moment, like let's say after this, after this conversation, you have more information, more insight on how to exactly, rise up into a higher state of perception, that you're not going to prevent yourself from doing that simply because you don't know what it would like to be free. You don't know what it would be like to be free, or at least freer than what you're used to.
Absolutely. And sorry, keep going.
Oh yeah, no, I'm done. That was my point. Thank you, please.
I mean, absolutely. I totally agree with it. And if I may just add two things very quickly, which is, first of all, very often I think people come with those kind of questions or with that kind of attitude. It probably comes from a place where, okay, I don't know how to exit here. I don't know how to get out of here. What's the point, right? I'm just gonna be tossed between heaven and earth indefinitely, which is what we find out from the Hermetic texts, right? But even in those Hermetic texts, we get told that this is absolutely not a reason to give up. That's the first message. Second of all, throughout history, those mystics, these that were passing these teachings, they knew absolutely how to get out of here. They knew, and we know it. That's the point. We know how to get out. We know how it was possible to get out of here throughout all this time. Not everyone knew that. Cathars knew that. For example, some of the women or the men initiated into the mystery schools, the Isis, Mary Magdalene, Mother Mary, etc. So these alchemical women, they knew exactly how to get out of here. So people knew how to get out of here. This knowledge was here. This knowledge was eradicated. It has not been eradicated fully. We still maintain this knowledge. This knowledge is available through feminine alchemy teachings. So it's not like all is lost. It is not lost, but it is wisdom that's available to those, as the Gnostics say, those with eyes to see and ears to hear, right? So it's not all lost. We know what to do. And on top of that, perhaps the most important thing, which is we are living in unprecedented times. I keep saying that every interview, that, this is the end of the world. We know the signs. We know that the prophecies, variety of prophecies, the apocalypse, the prophecies of the indigenous people, the prophecy in the Norse mythology, for example, and the Bible apocalypse, they all are telling us a story, including timelines, which are explained through certain signs and celestial events. And these have been even confirmed by Vatican. Since 2017, we have a confirmation of the apocalyptic sign, which sort of commences the end of the world. On top of that, through the Norse mythology, we also know what's happening, how it's all intertwined together. We also know, based on the indigenous accounts that are talking about humanity ending at crossroads or getting to a certain point, we see the signs of that. We are living at those unprecedented times. What's the point of that? The point of that is that the end of the world, Ragnarok, or however we want to call it, is about the end of the world as we know it, the end of this matrix. But we are playing part in it. This is literally the beginning of the process of this matrix collapsing, which means if you can get on board and do your part, you may, at the end of this process, not need to worry about not knowing how to die and what to do after death, how to get out of here, because there will be nothing to get out of anymore, because this will be over. Do people understand that? I don't think so.
Hopefully they will after this discussion. And this is exactly why I wanted to have this opportunity, so that you can expand on these ideas. And I think you explained it in a very understandable way. So, all right, let's move on to our next question. And Emma asks, if they made the zodiac system, they as in, of course, as we know, some people call them the archons, the Nuna, then why would they make a design where the age of Pisces comes to an end and the net we're caught in, and then not be able to keep people trapped afterwards? We'll pause there, and because I think that the next one is sort of two questions, but we'll start here. Why would they make a design where the age of Pisces comes to an end?
Okay, so first of all, again, I need to explain something, okay? When I say that they created zodiac mechanism, I mean they have hijacked certain processes and cycles, including the constellation and they specifically what they did. When I say that they have created the zodiac, they are not responsible for putting constellations out there. These constellations, Virgo, Pisces, etc., they are there before the archons. They are there. What they have done is they have messed with the energy of the planets. They have distorted and changed the energetic imprint, or the energetic sort of construct of the planets. This is why we have the planets connecting to some gods. We have, Mercury and Venus and Saturn, etc., and they have all sorts of qualities, and they have lords. And if you look through Babylonian astrology, or if you look through the Greek or Vedic, etc., there's always a god associated. There's always some kind of external god associated with the planet, right, or represented by the planet. So they have hijacked energies of the planets, and this is what they have kind of weaved into this zodiac mechanism. They are not responsible for the fact that we have different constellations up there, and the sun is moving through different constellations, but they have messed with the energies of the planets, and this is how they created the zodiac. So the zodiac is literally here to stream. So the planets are streaming certain energies upon us. The moon is streaming certain energies. Saturn is pretty much where all that matrix or zodiac mechanism is sitting. And mind you, numerology is part of it, because it's just a different tool of deciphering the same. So to kind of answer this question, they haven't decided that at the age of Pisces it's going to be their end, because it's going to be now age of Aquarius. They cannot control these cycles, but what they try to do is to influence the energies of the planets and the movement of these planets, and what it means when a planet happens to be in Pisces or in Virgo, etc. But there are certain cosmic cycles. So, you have to understand that they do not have the capacity. They haven't created this universe. They haven't created the constellations. The constellations have been there before. And the fact that the precession of equinoxes is taking us from a certain energy, such as the age of Pisces, into the age of Aquarius, these are cosmic cycles that they cannot control. So we're kind of mixing two things here. And they cannot control the fact that that cosmic cycle is coming to an end, as an age of Pisces is coming to an end, which would have had a certain interpretation. And the fact that they sort of captured the energy of age of Pisces, and mind you, you see, age of Aquarius alchemically and in its highest form is exactly what I've been always describing. This is a woman returning with a vessel, right, with a pitcher, pouring the water of life. And that is the true meaning of Aquarius. Aquarius is a woman, not a man. Of course, in this matrix, Aquarius and most of the signs have been turned into men, apart from Virgo. But all these signs very much still are kind of hijacked by the matrix. So when you think about Aquarius, right, in a matrix context, Aquarius is about technology. It's about AI. It is about interventions, genetic interventions. This is why we have the themes emerging of AI, digital currency. This is why we have now them starting to produce babies in some kind of, I don't know, some artificial wombs, which are not to do with a woman, because this is that malevolent use of technology, which is in zodiac terms linked to Aquarius. But the true original meaning of Aquarius is different. That's the alchemical meaning. So this is why I'm saying, we need to understand the difference and where are we operating. That when we step outside of the sort of matrix construct, these constellations are not part of the zodiac by design. They have been hijacked. The planets and their energies have been hijacked to fashion this control mechanism. I hope that makes sense. And to sort of go forward to the Virgo part of the question, they didn't make the symbol of Virgo in the sky with the moon at her feet. That is an old prophecy. That is an ancient age-old prophecy, which talks about that there's gonna come a time when a certain you see, that is a description of a timeline, that there will be a woman in the sky with a moon at her feet, and she's going to be bearing a child, and she's going to have a crown with 12 stars above her head, because this is what this comment is referring to. So apocalyptic sign, they did not design the sign, but this is the timing of it. They cannot control the timing of things. This is, as it happens, what has been prophesied by the indigenous people. This is what has been prophesied by the Cathars. It has been prophesied through the Viking stories, the Norse mythology, any other mythology, that is going to come a time where the world is going to end. This matrix is going to end. And the timing of it, because they wouldn't have captured it in a sense of this is going to be the date, but they captured it in a sense of when you see this happening in the sky, that is going to be the time. I hope that answers the question.
Ola, you stole the words right out of my mouth when you talked about the age of Aquarius. I was going to talk about that. Of course, I should have known that. Of course, an expert in the zodiac as yourself would would have covered this. Ola has extensively studied astrology and the zodiac, so obviously she knows about this. In my cursory understanding of the zodiac, I came across that concept as well, how there's two sides, let's say, or there can be two polarities of any astrological sign or any astrological age. The age of Aquarius, a lot of people understand it, especially in the New Age community, that that's literally the new age that they're hoping for, right? The age of Aquarius, and it can represent the so-called postmodern age, the age of information, the age of enlightenment. But as Ola pointed out, I was going to say this too, the potential for artificial intelligence. So it's not so much that, because the person asked, why would they allow us to have the age of Aquarius and allow us to not be trapped anymore? And it's like, it might not, it's not so much of that, because like Ola said, it can be hijacked to, let's say, flip the polarity to end up, rather than being an age of, at least this is what their intention is. Of course, as we study this, we are trying to, or our goal is to, of course, navigate through all of the traps and all of their agendas, let's say. But what their agenda is the at least part of it, partially, is the artificial intelligence. So it's not like they're sitting around, twiddling their thumbs like, oh, humanity is going to be free in a couple of years or whatever, whenever the age of Aquarius
absolutely
is going to. They're trying to, exactly like what Ola said, hijack it, flip the polarity. So instead of it being an age of, where we reach that higher state of that higher perceptive state where we do have access to the fields of potentiality, they're trying to do the opposite. What a lot of New Agers think is 5D ascension can be argued is going to be a descension.
Yeah,
so
and
really glad that you brought that up, Ola.
Absolutely, and just to add to what you said, remember that that's sort of to everyone to remember that they cannot sort of control the cycles, the natural cosmic cycles, but they are trying to hijack the energy and sort of change it to fit their agenda. But also they cannot. I think that the fact that we have now seen this influx of AI, technology, digital currency, all the Bitcoins, all that stuff, it means, I think it's a perfect confirmation that even though there's a lot of people arguing here, oh, but we're not in the age of Aquarius, it's not until the next 200 years or 300 years. Well, you know what? Those things don't happen overnight. This is not like a mathematical cutoff point. These energies are already in the air. If they were not, they would not be bringing in all these changes because we would not be buying into them. because we wouldn't be in that energy yet, but we are. And unfortunately, a lot of people in this world, majority, are very unconscious, and they are sort of falling right into, as you kind of said, that polarity of Aquarius being on the low end of its spectrum, on that
Yes.
kind of AI and control, etc. And look how cunning and smart they are in their plans. If you think about Agenda 2030, if you think about what they're trying to do with this one global government and all this digital control, Bitcoin, people think that there is freedom in Bitcoin. No, freedom is a testing ground for you to accept digital ID and digital currency, which, right now people are begging for it because they think they're going to be making money off of it, and they have been making money off of it, right? But you see, this is no surprise that the way they are using these energies and how they are manipulating them to kind of unravel an agenda of further control is very much in line with this technology, with the AI. I mean, think about it, right? Even the goggles that we keep referring to, this is literally the latest idea for us to travel. They don't want us to travel. They want us to put on goggles so that we can pretend we're in Fiji.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, I can just imagine them saying, no more going to Ola's Arctic tours, just put on these goggles and you're in Norway.
They've already said that. This is, you can already find that this is the future of travel. They don't want us moving around. They want us, shut down in those 15-minute cities. They're going to obviously do it under the guise of the CO2 emissions and all this nonsense, because they want us controlled, and they need a very advanced technology. This is where the AI, this is why we are now tracked in all sorts of ways. All these apps that people are using that are meant to be so great and helpful are really tracking and understanding your behaviors and your choices. This is high level of using AI to process information to kind of learn our behavior. So we are very much in the lowest form of that Aquarian energy. That's what they are. And and many people have no idea about it. They just think that their life is getting easier. But you're just playing into their hand of unraveling agenda of control.
Yes. Let's go on to the next question in the next slide here, also from Emma. Emma asks, how can you mitigate things, energy feeding on you? Okay, I'm going to reword that a little bit, Emma. How can we mitigate, let's say, entities feeding off of us, if at all, positive or negative? Do you unpack that anymore, or anywhere on your channel? I'll answer that a little later. For Ola, how to not go full on stoic, neutral, emotional flatline, but also not become an entity snack either.
Yeah, very good question. I would probably say that well, it is actually quite useful to know your code, your personal code, as in, have a astrology reading or numerology reading where in what way you have been sort of caught into this matrix code, meaning what are going to be your triggers, what are going to be your repeating stories and so-called lessons and challenges, and basically what's in store for you to keep you responding and reacting and feeding the matrix. Because when you understand that, then you're starting to navigate from a place of being informed rather than from that autopilot, just getting frustrated and angry. I don't necessarily believe in that kind of stoic, neutral, emotional flatline. But I do believe, and again, that the real world is out here. It is not anywhere else. It is here, but we have been so disconnected from the nature. So literally go and spend more time in the nature. And we have become so convenient as well that nobody wants to, because it's cold, it's it's not nice, it's this and that and the other. No, that is healing for us. That is literally how we get back to our roots, how we can get healed and disconnected from this matrix. Literally go and be in the nature. And another thing, which hopefully is not going to be a big surprise, it's very simple, but it is actually really it really works, which is, do not make choices and sort of reactions based on fear, but follow your intuition. If you are in a situation, in your life situation, and it keeps repeating, or even right now you're in the middle of a certain situation and the fear says, no, you have to stay, no, you cannot leave this situation or this relationship or whatever, no, you just need to kind of be strong and sit in there, but some deep voice inside of you, some intuition at the back of your head says, I can't take it anymore, I need out, I can't do this, I don't want, I don't know how, but I will be okay. Listen to that. This matrix thrives on fear. This matrix thrives on us thinking that we do not have any other option. So following intuition, that nudge of this intuitive voice, is always going to be the way out of a lot of situations. Do not follow fear. Do not make decisions based on survival mode, based on literally, because fear is survival mode, right? So most of us, and think about it, just think about it, most of the people in this world are in a survival mode. They are, they are in jobs they hate, they are in relationships that are not good for them, they are in living situations that are not for them, they are fulfilling someone else's desires, wishes or projections, and they do not live their own life because they are scared, because they have been traumatized, scared, programmed, etc. These are behaviors out of fear. You are, by living like that, whether you know it or not, you are constantly supplying this matrix with low vibrational energy, because you are going to be frustrated, angry, unhappy, miserable, depressed. So a way out is, well, you're gonna have to break out of it. And by following your intuition, it's almost like causing a glitch in the matrix, because they're not operating at that level. They're not operating at the level of inspiration, at a level of hope and courage. They operate much lower.
I think that this relates directly to the reincarnation cycle and the first question that we started off with when the commenter asked, what is there else even to do than besides being in this state of being? And I think that relates directly to it, following your intuition. Any situation, whether that's, in our personal everyday lives, and even in the grander context of the reincarnation cycle, that fear of, I can't get out of this situation. Yeah. I think that that's one of the number one things that keeps people trapped in that loop, whether it's a relationship loop, a being stuck in a job you hate loop, or even the reincarnation loop.
Yeah.
So, and for those, just to give a little more context to this question, in our first interview, we talked about, some Buddhists and some Greek philosophies, Stoicism, the esoteric mystery schools that sort of made the conclusion that in order to not have entities feed off of you, you essentially have to, like what this person said, be very stoic, and emotionally flatline. And there are some people who are very, very adamant about that. I don't agree that you necessarily can't live your life and enjoy your life and explore. I really like what Ola said about connecting with nature. I think that it was a response. It was the Greeks and the Buddhists and all of them. It was simply a response, their answer, their version of what we can do about it. But I don't necessarily think that that's the only way. Um, so
I think also, that sometimes all these ancient concepts over time, I mean, think about it, the last 4 years, and we have all sorts of different versions of what happened, right? So imagine that over thousands and thousands of years that some of these philosophies were sort of created over, there would have been also an element of misinterpretation of what was originally intended. So I think that when we today think that they were advocating for this kind of neutral, stoic, don't get involved, don't react, like just nothing ever has any effect on you. I think that might have been a bit of a misinterpretation of something else, which is the wei wu wei. So this principle of wei wu wei, if anybody knows this principle, it kind of means act by not acting, do by not doing, and I think that this is more what was truly behind these sort of stoic emotional flatline behaviors, which means do not engage with the matrix. When the matrix is throwing at you, news of the next big, scandal, issue, threat, war, problem, scare. Right now it's a very good time because we all have TVs, and whenever you put the TV on, there is always some kind of drama, right? It's a war, it's an issue. Now we have 50 genders as well. People are getting pissed off with everything. People are getting either scared or pissed off. And I think that this stoic neutral has been kind of taken a little bit out of context, but probably what it kind of means is do not get pulled into the games of the matrix. Do not go into arguing with people about it if you know already that this is just a game of the matrix. These are their typical tricks. Do not respond, do not engage, do not go investing your energy, do not go on Facebook arguing with people trying to convince them to something, because they probably are not going to listen to you anyway. Do not get influenced by these fears. If you hear that now this is a new threat, that's a new threat, now it's terrorist attack, now it's this, now it's that, a lot of this is just threats. A lot of this is only threats to keep you in a certain emotional state. So do not respond. Do not believe in that. Do not believe in that. Wei wu wei, act by not acting, do by not doing. So by not responding, by not reacting, you are not feeding them, and they cannot live without that.
And even celebrity drama and
absolutely,
things like
right?
that. Yeah, I don't watch the news at all. I actually don't watch TV at all anymore. My TV is like collecting dust. It hasn't been turned on for the past few years. But I really, really, really like what you said about being pulled into these games. I think that multidimensionally there could even be a higher aspect of that in terms of being electrically neutral. So as I was studying the quantum realm, of course, I had to also look, get a new perspective as well on the subatomic and atomic realms. As you are aware, the neutron in an electric field doesn't get pulled in all these different directions. It's being electrically charged. It's being a proton or an electron. And I literally see, in a way, it can be interpreted, especially in the geopolitical sphere, but also in the, whether it be sports, uh, celebrity issues, there's this polarization, people being literally charged, right? Oh, this thing is charging me. I'm uptight now. I'm fired up, right? So it's this. It's not about. I really like what you said. It's not about being stoic and that you're a zombie, right? I think that
right.
people have been too desensitized to the point where they can't even emotionally. They have a flat affect. They're emotionally almost dead. That's not the extreme that we're being here. It's about being strategic. It's about, I know the game. I know the game.
See the
and
game and don't
pulled
get involved.
one way. Yes, and I'm not going to be electrically pulled in one way or another, because there's another concept in this whole matrix talk about the some people call it the white light tunnel, that some people see after death, a white light that sort of draws them in. And again, of course, we are essentially just trying our best to understand it. Not everyone, of course, experiences this, but a lot of people have reported seeing this so-called white light at the end of the tunnel after death. You know, and the key point that was striking to me was how a lot of people reported that they felt pulled, almost like magnetism, towards this light. So what I've been studying lately a lot is this concept of electrical neutrality. You know, not being so charged, you know, here, so polarized, like, oh, are you going to vote for this or that candidate? Are you going to, you know, people are fighting more now than ever, disagreeing more now than ever. They are charged now more than ever. Can we find that electrically or spiritually neutral state, but find equilibrium where we're not a zombie, but again, we simply know the game?
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's move on to the next question, also from Emma. Now, this question was specifically directed at me, but Ola, I wanted your opinion on this because I hear this concept a lot. So she asks, do you do anything for your accumulated lifetimes fragmentation, collecting your pieces and whatnot? Now, Ola, I wanted your opinion on this because I'm very opinionated on this. This concept that we have to come back and reincarnate over and over again to collect our, let's say, fragmented or fractalized pieces. It's a concept that some people in the New Age community have, some people even in the Matrix community have. What is your thought on that?
I mean, I'm not sure if I 100% understand this concept. I mean, the kind of the fragmentation that I certainly am aware of is the fragmentation of the soul, which is precisely how this matrix operates through trauma, programming, and keeping us in lowest vibration. It literally causes fragmentation of the soul. However, you know, this whole notion of needing to reincarnate so that you can pick some pieces, that's another way of selling you karma. That's another way of selling you reincarnation trap. So that's absolutely false. That is absolutely false. Nobody needs to reincarnate many times. That is the matrix lie. Okay, karma. I'm not saying karma is not real. Karma exists in the world of Maya. If you want to believe that you have to keep reincarnating, well, then I guess you will. But that doesn't mean, you know, karma is not the law of the universe. Karma is the law of these archons who created this matrix. So, and this whole reincarnation cycle is also their mechanism. They have designed it. The fact that you're being pulled to the light is the result of the fact that you are traumatized and you pretty much don't really have much choice on the other side. If you don't, as Mary Magdalene says, if you do not resurrect when you are alive, then after death, too late, right? Why? Well, because this mechanism works based on your vibration, and your vibration is linked to the trauma and fragmentation of the soul. So you do not have a choice unless you wake up and do something about it when you're alive. Having said that, do we need to go through multiple lifetimes? Absolutely not. That's a lie propagating reincarnation and propagating you to believe that you have to pay for your sins or make up for something, and that's the law of karma, which is not the universal law. Like I said, it's the law of this realm created by the archons. You do not have to obey by that law. So this is why we need to wake up. That is precisely what we need to wake up from, so that we do not continue this reincarnation cycle, because we don't have to. And in order not to reincarnate, in order not to be part of this reincarnation cycle, you need to wake up, and you need to do certain things when you are still alive, so that when you die, you know how to die and you know what to do when you die on the other side. Cathars knew what to do. The mystery schools in Egypt were teaching what to do and how to do it. So Mary Magdalene, Mother Mary, witches that were burnt at the stake, a lot of those kind of people who had access to this wisdom, they knew how to die and what to do to escape this cycle of Maya, this cycle of reincarnation. They knew how to do it. The fragmentation, I might be mixing something up. Maybe that's not what this question is about, but the fragmentation that I certainly know that is part of this aspect is fragmentation of the soul. If the soul is fragmented, and the soul gets fragmented as a result of trauma, this is why we get traumatized since childhood. This is why our zodiac code, our matrix code through numerology, astrology, always contains some ways of being traumatized or challenged, or in some way being experienced negatively. Why? Because when you go through trauma, when you go through difficult life situations, your soul literally, and we know that from shamanic teachings, for example, your soul shatters, it fragments. You start, so those pieces literally leave your essence. And this is why in shamanism we have this concept of shamanic journeys, where the shaman goes looking for the fragments of the soul to restore wholeness, right? I mean, by the way, these shamanistic practices are echoes of feminine alchemy. This is literally what the whole mysterium of resurrection was about, truly. So resurrection, I think we spoke a little bit about it last time with Jesus. The true meaning and the true purpose of resurrection is to restore wholeness to yourself when you're still alive, so that when you die, you do not get pulled onto the reincarnation mechanism. Because it's like a vibration pull, so that you can turn around and you can go the other way. And that's where the exit is. So I don't know if that answers the question. I don't even know if that is the question, but that's what I can make out of it.
No, you have it right about that soul fragmentation. That's exactly what not only what this person asked, but I've heard it and seen it, throughout, YouTube here and there, this concept of soul fragmentation, and that we need to come back to collect our pieces and things like that. I question that very, very, very fervently. I like your answer to that, and I definitely concur. So I think I don't have anything else to say about that, because honestly, the way you answered it was was very complete. Oh yes, I did have something to say. My last word, complete, reminded me of what I wanted to say. What you mentioned about wholeness, how I think of it is, even if there are, pieces of me that have been shattered, um, I think of myself as all of me. I don't feel like, oh, I need to come back and reincarnate to collect those pieces. I am all of me. And I totally agree that that's part of the trick of, oh, you need to go back. You need to live 50 more lifetimes to collect the 50 fragments of you that got shattered because of this one trauma, and it's
but you
like,
see, it's
no.
interesting because even logically, right? Let's take off the spiritual hats and let's put the logical, science, engineering hats back on. Look, if you have to, so if supposedly this is correct, that you have to keep reincarnating to pick up all these pieces, so that leaves us with an assumption that next time you incarnate, that's when you will be picking up those pieces. Yeah, this is why you need to reincarnate again. Well, okay, why don't you pick it up now then? Then you don't have to, right?
Yeah. Plus, next lifetime, you're going to probably experience a new trauma.
Well, exactly. So it doesn't even make sense on a logical level. That kind of new agey stipulation, right?
It's the same argument that I use for karma. Oh, come back to clear your karma. In your next life, you're going to accumulate more karma now.
No,
So it's
yeah,
this
and
trap.
absolutely.
It's this loop. So
Yeah, it's a loop, and it's meant to be a loop, and it serves them, right? Because this is how they make you believe that you owe them, that there's something that you owe. So that makes you guilty, which is one of the favorite emotions. So then you're gonna continue to, you're gonna buy into this whole concept of needing to keep coming back. It's a lie. It's a lie.
I couldn't agree more. Emma has a lot of questions. She continues to ask, if the dome is to keep women from reaching into the upper kingdom, how is a woman supposed to just do it anyway? What's your response to that, Ola?
Yeah, so okay, that's a very good question. And again, we kind of have to explain some technicalities here. We have been cut off with the dome and also with pouring so-called lead, alchemical lead over the surface of the earth. And of course, we're not talking about the real element lead. We're talking about low vibrational energies. We're talking about rituals being made in certain places where the primordial energy of the earth mother was reaching the surface. Blood was shed in those places, blood, sacrificial blood of animals and people. So that was done to literally seal us off from the lower kingdom and the dome from the upper kingdom. So this is, if you like, that kind of mechanical aspect of what's been done. However, that mechanical aspect it's not tight. It's not sort of tight. It's not going to keep us disconnected unless we ourselves are also continuing to be disconnected through other means, which is what? Back to the same that I keep talking about: trauma, programming, women acting either sort of stepping into sacrifice type of behaviors, women who are sacrificing the womb, women who are engaging in certain behaviors that are clearly of that kind of lower vibrational level, promiscuity, zero respect for self, zero respect for the grail, as well as the other side of the spectrum, which is women stepping into masculine behaviors, women thinking that they have to prove themselves, women chasing being perfectionists, rigid, women who want to fight fight the matrix, fight the men, women who kind of, after the period of being suppressed, now come out to on the other side, on the other side of the spectrum as well. So aggressive, dominant, screaming, shouting, and sort of stepping fully into that distorted masculine energy. That those behaviors are sealing even more. So a woman, and mind you, we have been conditioned, and even by society, right? I mean, for the last sort of 50 years or so, we have been told that the behaviors that I described are just called hustling, right? They just called
Yes.
being successful and being the boss babe, So and once
Yes.
upon a right, and once upon a time, women were encouraged to just be quiet and be at home and take care of the family, which is that sacrificial role. And we still play both. A lot of women are still kind of finding themselves, probably unconsciously, in both. So the point here is to really catch those tendencies, those behaviors. Women need to become free again. And by free, I mean, not living according to anyone's expectations, not living sacrificing for the family, sacrificing for the man, chasing the man, or sacrificing financially because she she kind of enters into some kind of arrangements and transactions where a man is providing financially while she is providing on every other level, which is just, she's not living in that sacredness of her energy. So I don't know if that makes sense, but basically, when a woman steps into these behaviors, everything is connected, okay? Everything is connected, as in your behaviors are going to affect your internal aspect, your emotions. So a lot of women who are not really living in alignment, who are kind of being silent or even convincing themselves that they are okay when they are not, or when they are stepping into those masculine behaviors, which are very often due to needing to defend and protect ourselves. Very often, there's a lot of fear underneath it. These women are living in a constant state of stress and fear, and very often miserable, very often unsatisfied with life, very often tired, anxious. So that emotional distress is going to affect your hormonal side. And I'm not talking about everybody now running to the labs to do tests. That's irrelevant, because we're talking alchemy, not chemistry. So the problem is, when you are staying within certain vibrational, emotional states, such as what I've just listed here, your alchemy is not going to operate at a high level. So you cannot reconnect anywhere. Matrix has you exactly where they want you. Whereas when a woman reconnects or perhaps steps out of these behaviors first, she recognizes that, she stops chasing, she stops being angry, she stops living in relationships or staying in relationships that do not serve her, she stops meeting everyone else's expectation but her own wills and desires, and we can get to I would love to move from here to the menstruation, because that's where you're gonna see if you are living in alignment or not, and I will tell you how. But if women can basically start living back in their truth, in that alignment, in what they want, listening to that intuition, finding that inner peace, finding that inner harmony, giving up on things that are really not good for them, giving up on relationships that are not good for them, walking away, finding freedom, not being dependent on anyone, I know it's a lot of courage in there, but well, you ask me, I'm telling you how it is. I needed to make certain choices in my life as well to get to that point. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm saying it's necessary. Then you put yourself energetically, sort of spiritually, and literally alchemically in a place of reconnection to the upper kingdom and to the lower kingdom. Part of that is obviously to do with your blood as well. Women who still have blood, they, back to that whole concept of symbiosis, like ecosystem with the earth. This is not just a concept. I mean it. You listen to some of the indigenous people, you listen to people, for example, from Africa, they still do it and it's normal. Women will go and pour blood, their menstrual blood, into the earth. Or they will not even wear, they will wear a skirt, but they will not wear underwear. And they will allow that blood to drip onto the earth. I'm sorry, but if for someone what I'm saying is a taboo, or if it's disgusting, then you are very far from the place that you need to be. We need to start being open and talk about it, because this is nature. This is nature. This is mysterium of life. This is the most powerful that a woman has. This is you are the creator, and this is part of it. If this is disgusting, then we are in a totally wrong place here. So that aspect of giving back to the earth and reconnecting, because our essences will be flowing through the sacred network of the earth. You are reconnecting as the tree of life, but you have to be in the right place. Why? Because your hormonal system is connected to your emotions, and your hormonal system is responsible for your secretions. And if those secretions do not have that alchemical potency, nothing will happen. I hope that makes sense. I will be explaining this much deeper in my ebook.
There was, of course, I'm going to forget it now. It's been a couple of years, but there was a culture, completely forgot where, but I was reading something about how there's some, I don't know if it's an indigenous culture somewhere, where after the woman gives birth, she takes her placenta. Because, after the delivery of the child, obviously you deliver the placenta. They take the placenta and they bury it.
Absolutely, that's my culture.
Oh, okay. I don't think it's
this is not even a culture thing. This used to be a common knowledge in the past. This is not a geography thing.
It used to just be a thing. It wasn't just a Okay. Yeah, I read it somewhere. I forgot where, but yeah. So okay. So even in now, when you say your culture, are you talking about Poland specifically?
The Slavic countries, so Poland, Ukraine, Russia, that sort of Eastern Bloc, but not only. Like I say, these practices were also known to the indigenous people from America. They were known to indigenous people from Australia. This is not sort of region specific. It's just that it died out at some point, or we stopped talking about it, or we didn't know about it, right? So absolutely, I mean, look at the placenta. Placenta is effectively, right, when you look at it, that's the tree. It's the tree of life.
Yes,
and that placenta develops from the lining of your uterus, right?
Yes.
So when a woman gets pregnant, it becomes a placenta, but when a woman doesn't get pregnant, it becomes the blood.
Yes. Yes.
And it has the stem cells. It has the cells, which, I mean, these are miraculous cells, right? I mean, you're a biologist. You can tell us all about it.
Yes. Cell biology. Yes. Go ahead.
So yeah, there is a more than a ritualistic sort of aspect. I wouldn't even say this is a ritual. There is a meaning to it, because when we bury that placenta, which has been connected to that baby, and it also has been connected to the mother, it is full of those beautiful cells, and we bury that in the in the ground. We bury that into the earth. And we very often there would be a tree planted on top of that
Yes,
placenta.
yes, that's what I read. Yes, they bury
Absolutely.
it and plant, and also bury a seed, and it would grow into a tree, and the placenta
Yes.
is literally infused into that. That's what I read. Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So you see, there's so much meaning in that, because placenta is the tree. It is the tree of life. It was feeding that baby. It was the medium between the mother and the baby for all this time. And now you have a tree growing out of it. So the DNA of that placenta and all these cells are now infused together with the seed, right? Like you say, and we have a tree out of it, which is also as sort of symbolic to the fact that a woman is a tree of life. So that very often for us in our culture, that would have been when a girl was born. So then that girl is growing up while this tree is also growing up. There would be a tree chosen that is, not taking sort of 200 years to grow, but it's kind of growing up with that child. So as this girl is maturing and growing up, she would be connecting with that tree. She would be talking and touching and whispering and sitting at that tree, because that tree literally contains her own genetic material, now alchemized with the material of the earth, with the womb of the earth, because it is connected, right? The trees are connected. It's like a network of neurons, right, underneath the earth. So that would be responsible for enhancing our connection with the lower kingdom, with the upper kingdom. We have that tree, and that tree is infused and alchemized out of all these amazing elements. So a woman would later, as she's growing up and then she goes through menstruation, she would be pouring blood underneath that tree or somewhere into the ground. And honestly, these women, or when you start doing that, you will see, because I know what's going to happen. A lot of people are going to ask, how do you do? What do you say? What's the intention? Nothing. You don't have to intend anything. And I will explain to you why. Because think about it, okay? This whole notion of intentions and needing to have a goal of doing something, these are very mind-based practices, which is specifically what the alchemy warns us away from. Mind is the playground of the gods. They want us to be thinking and making manifestations from the mind and making intentions, focusing on what we want. Whereas actually, when you look into alchemy, it is all based on very intelligent motherly design. What do I mean by that? When that woman is pregnant with a baby, that baby is inside, and that placenta is connected and the umbilical cord is in place, the baby is receiving all that it needs through that umbilical cord. It receives all the nutrients, it receives everything it needs, while that cord evacuates all the kind of toxic or other waste products that are not that need to leave the system of a child, right? It evacuates and it feeds it back into the mother. Those processes are natural. Those processes are happening just because we have this amazing unconditional love-based design, intelligent design written into our genetic code, into our bodies, and it just happens. The mother or the baby do not need any affirmations. They do not need to pray to each other. It just happens. It just naturally it's a natural process. So then when you have that placenta and you plant that tree and you come and pour your blood, you do not have to say any intentions. You do not have to think what you want. You do not have to focus on what is it that you're trying to gain. You just have to do it knowing that this intelligent force that permeates all creation, just like in the context of that baby in the womb of the mother, you are going to be taken care of, and the best for you is going to be given. You do not have to plan and worry about the outcome. You don't have to, come up with a sort of points of what you need and what you're going to be asking for. No, you don't have to do that. That's the point. This is where the mind gets switched off. I know it sounds probably very difficult to push yourself to accept it, but by the same token, that's the nature. So what happens to this magnificent force once the baby is out of the mother? It's still there. And that's the part that has been hidden from us.
This, in my mind, connects back to that quantum field of unlimited potential.
Absolutely.
So,
absolutely.
So for the audience, going back to cell biology and the stem cells, what she's talking about are, in terms of the placenta and the menstrual fluid, are the pluripotential stem cells, and honestly, the omnipotential stem cells that have that, what you can argue, that unlimited potential to differentiate into any kind of tissue, bone, the cardiac muscle, anything. Now, wow, I almost lost my train of thought. It goes back to the quantum field of unlimited potential, because with these, it's even when you study hematology, when you study, blood, when you study blood and, the plasma and blood cells, red or white, you also see this in the bone marrow, the stem cells. So this concept is directly connected, I feel, to that quantum field, which then answers this person's question: how can you connect to these higher fields? I really like what Ola said about freedom, as above, so below. When you can, doing the best you can, find as much freedom here from these relationships, from the, expectations of being competitive and being, a hustler and being, it literally directly corresponds to, because again, I always go back to this, there's a multidimensionality to all of this. When you can do it here, it automatically happens there in the, let's say, the upper kingdom.
Yeah, I mean, it happens by itself when you are in the right state, right? Because everything works through your secretions, everything works through your hormones. This is the hormones, the secretions are sort of in between dimensions, if you like. So how do you connect? You connect automatically when you are living in a certain state of emotional well-being, physical well-being. Why? Because you cannot fool the energy, right? So you cannot be living anxious, being frustrated, angry, or disappointed, or just, I don't know, living sort of sacrificing, etc., and expect the alchemy to be happening. No, because this is totally not the same level. This is not, you're not in the right place. So alchemy is not a result that I always say that alchemy is not a result of meditation or initiation, or somebody telling you that they're gonna put hands on your head and you're gonna be, they're gonna magically get you into alchemy. No, it is your internal process. You cannot fool your own energy. You cannot fool your own body. Everything is connected. So whatever emotional state you are, whatever emotional energy you carry, that is going to be directly affecting your hormonal system. That is going to be directly deciding at sort of what level are you operating. And if that anger or frustration or perfectionism, control, if it's still there, then that is a very low vibration, which means your secretions are not going to be alchemical. They're just going to be operating pretty much where the matrix wants them to be.
That, as a biologist, that literally, quite literally, not even just as a biologist, but as a woman, that quite literally has a correlation to our physical experience. Obviously, when we're stressed out,
Exactly.
our cycles, aren't very regular. We've all experienced that, so, it does directly, being so stressed out and being so busy and to the point where you can't even sleep right and things like that, that literally directly affects our feminine cycles. And we're definitely going to dive into that in more detail in a moment. So Emma's last question here, we touched on that. We can maybe go on, since we're already speaking about that. Her last question was, do you have any thoughts on menstruation? We started off that, and then we can continue that. And then her second to last question is, how does one activate the latent so-called junk DNA? But I'll let you lead here.
I mean, oh my God, my thoughts on menstruation, I could talk for 5 hours about my thoughts on menstruation. So I don't think we're gonna be able to cover all that.
You can write a book about it, which you're going to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is going to be covered extensively in the ebook that I'm working on. It's an ebook that I'm specifically looking to explain deeper and in a sort of understandable format, menstruation and menopause, and in that alchemical context, because I think that for many women, these both are still an affliction. These are, as the menstruation, the curse, and we don't know, we don't remember the power of those two processes and what truly they bring us. So very extensively, I am going to cover that in an ebook. I am going to, however, use this time to mention something, and I'm wondering how many women ever think about it, which is, I would like to talk about PMS. I would like to, in a context of menstruation, I would like to talk about how many women feel just before menstruation comes. And a lot of us don't understand certain aspect, because a lot of women will experience certain whether that's sort of irritation or symptoms, physical even, but very often, and I'm not gonna even bring up this pathetic joke, but women sort of, the association of women's behavior just before period is not very positive, right? It's became a topic of jokes. However, I want you to understand something, okay? That there is nothing in our body and in our cycle that is sort of being done to us that is the curse. There is something that our body is trying to tell you. So having a really bad experience, experiencing a PMS as a really sort of difficult time, where you have pains and you have massive mood swings and you literally are, very emotional or very frustrated, very angry, and all myriad of emotions. Okay. Interestingly, that is not the regular, normal sort of state of being. Okay. Why? That is an information. And I'm going to explain that in my ebook. How does that correspond to the hormones that you are releasing at that time? It's specifically to do with hormones that you are actually releasing mid-cycle. that later they kind of drop off a little bit, but you still have them. And in holistic medicine, these hormones are associated with wisdom and intuition.
You're speaking of ovulation.
I'm speaking about the time past ovulation. Those hormones pick up during ovulation. So we're talking about the FH and the other hormones that are sort of spiking up during ovulation.
FSH and
Yes.
LH, the follicular stimulating hormone and the luteinizing hormone.
Right. Okay. Then thank you. Then we can use the names. But the point is that these two are in holistic medicine considered the hormones of wisdom and intuition, which means that in that second part of your sort of cycle, past ovulation, you are equipped with super intuition, even more heightened than usual, and sort of wisdom, additional hormone of wisdom. So what does that mean? It means that in that time, in that week or 10 days in the run-up to your period, if you are having a really tough time, you are irritable, you are angry, you cry a lot, then you should understand that these are your symptoms, that your body is telling you, that your intuition is telling you, your wisdom is telling you that there is something in your life that you are compromising on, that you are agreeing to, but you truly, truly are not okay with. That there is something, whether that's at your job, whether that's in your relationship, your body is literally screaming at you, telling that you are living out of alignment, and you've been ignoring it. You've been ignoring that voice. Maybe you're living too fast. Maybe you're running around trying to keep everyone happy. Maybe you are sacrificing. Maybe you're living in a relationship that you really don't want to be in. Maybe you are being in a relationship only because of your kids or whatever other reasons. Maybe you are not fulfilling your dreams. This is a voice from your own alchemical system telling you that you're not okay with that. You're not okay with that, and you're not doing anything about it. And it shows up in a myriad of physical sort of afflictions and emotional. So women need to start understanding their cycles and start understanding that, pains during menstruation or before menstruation are not normal. I will have a whole chapter describing what different sort of issues that a woman may experience. What do they mean? What specifically you might be dealing with? What specifically you're avoiding? But this is just a signal, because this topic I'm writing a book on, so it is really extensive.
It is fascinating to me as a biologist, because when I started having out-of-body experiences in 2018, I was documenting it like in lots of detail, and I always wrote down the dates. It did not escape my attention, Ola,
Right.
that I had an increased amount of OBEs during my ovulation week. That did not escape my attention, but until I just talked to you now, I had no idea why. What you just said now about that, how FSH and LH are the hormones of intuition and wisdom, that is striking to me. That is striking. And for PMS, for me, I don't experience the irritability, but what I do experience greatly is fatigue. Oh my goodness, I am so tired during that time of the month, let's say. Mm-hmm. And what you said about how it's telling, that's your body telling you that there's something out of balance, something that's not in alignment, I think that that makes sense for me personally, because my blood, and I'm just talking about my regular blood, I have lower than average hemoglobin and red blood count.
Right.
It's not low to the point where I'm anemic or anything. It's just lower than average. Like I think the corpuscular volume normally for people is supposed to be around the hundreds, like 100. Mine is more like 80. Anemics are like 40 or 50. I'm 80. The average, what a healthy adult is supposed to be for a healthy adult woman is supposed to be around 100 or so.
Right.
So it's kind of, it makes sense a lot. Obviously that, especially for me, I would be extremely fatigued.
And let me add to that for you, because you see, as these hormones are the hormones of wisdom and intuition, no surprise, right, that in many cultures, in pretty much all the ancient cultures, the time when a woman was menstruating, but also in the run-up to menstruation, also in that phase, that would have been the time for women to sort of withdraw from society, to maybe go and be alone, to have the time. They definitely needed to slow down. And you see, you tell me that you are experiencing fatigue, right? Which is in our modern world, we are expected to be always on the go, to be regardless of whenever we are in our cycle, right? Time, we can maybe even take a pill or take this or that to be never slowing down. That's the point, which is so counterintuitive from our bodies, and it's literally working against us. So why should you slow down? Because you are at that time flooded with hormones of intuition and wisdom, which you should be going through certain internal processes. You are literally processing and cleansing certain things, not just for yourself, because menstruation is a woman shedding skin, right? A woman is literally shedding skin. The skin is inside. That's the snake. That's the transformation. But you're not only transforming and cleansing things for yourself, but you're also, because you are a vessel, as every woman is, you're cleansing things for your environment, which means women are full of things, right? Full of energies that they would have picked up in the run-up to their periods, that they would have been picking them up throughout the whole cycle. But in that run-up is the time for us to be alone, to go through that process, not to be on the go, not to be the queen of fitness, not to be unless you want to. but that's the point. This is time to slow down and withdraw.
Yeah, and it's crazy that, after generations we haven't figured that out, because it's not just me. My mom has it too, and her mother, my grandmother. We just naturally have this lower than normal blood count, if you will,
Right.
just slightly. And yeah, I am definitely looking forward to your book, Ola.
Oh, bless you.
This intro that you gave was just mind-blowing in and of itself. I definitely look forward to you expanding on that even further in your upcoming ebook. So let's go to Emma's other question. What's your opinion on the junk DNA, and her question specifically, how does one activate the latent junk DNA?
So again, I think Emma refers to me saying that in the first part, that
Yes.
that part of the sort of activation of alchemy is through the activation of the DNA. And again, it is a bit of a I'm gonna try to mix alchemy with science here. So you see the DNA, the junk DNA, we are told that the sun is just the sun, it's bad for us, we need to use filters, factors, etc. That's a lie. I hope that everybody knows that. I'm not gonna spend time on explaining why that's a lie. But the sun as the portal, it carries certain energies over to us. It literally carries codes of activation of DNA. Also, the sun is like a portal bringing energies from the Milky Way galaxy center. So from the what's in the Milky Way galaxy center, a black hole. And we talked about the black hole already, right? The womb of creation. So that also contains our original codes of creation. What does that mean? These are the codes. This is the light that when it meets your body, your DNA, it's going to start activating it. What is preventing that activation is again our emotional state, low vibrational emotional state, guilt, shame, everything. I'm not gonna again spend time describing it, but go back to what I said before. The same low vibrational emotional states are going to prevent this process. So this is why it's so important. The first step to activating alchemy, and you don't have to worry about it, because like I say, if you can get out of that low vibrational state, if you can restore freedom, if you can get back to a place of harmony, balance, happiness, inner peace, going after what you want, not sacrificing, everything else will happen by itself. Go in the nature, go in the sun. Stop believing the propaganda that you need filters, etc., because it's called a filter for a reason. It needs to filter some energy that's meant to get to you, away from you, right? And think about it. Why is Bill Gates working on his project of covering the sun? What's in the sun? Truly, not the nonsense that they tell us, but clearly the sun, and we knew that forever. The sun is life. So contact with the sun and Venus. This is why the ancients were observing Venus as the morning star, evening star, because she was sending certain light. It is a certain light. Later, that light of the sun or from Venus gets misinterpreted as sun gazing and prana, and specifically, right, in the Eastern philosophies, that you need to sun gaze in the morning because it's going to heal you. Well, yes, but what are we specifically talking about? We're talking about that kind of light. We're talking actually about the black light. Black light that's specifically is emitted at certain times by the sun and by the black hole. So you effectively don't really need to think too much about this process. The only thing that you have to worry about is what I talk about all the time, which is working to step outside of low vibrational emotional states.
I've been studying epigenetics for many years now, and for those of you who are unfamiliar with the concept of junk DNA, it's basically in science the non-coding regions. But what I have found is that the scientists, they call it junk DNA because they just don't know what it codes for. But on an even deeper level, when I started getting into the matrix stuff, I found that it's not even that they don't know. It's more of that they don't want you to know.
Yeah, exactly, right? That's what I'm saying, Science is what they want us to know. It's not necessarily the absolute truth, right?
Yes. And I agree with what you said, Ola. And in fact, because what I have found as well, that it's not even so much, because the questioner asked, how do you activate the latent? So what I have found is that it's not even so much that these segments or these sections of our DNA are necessarily dormant. It's really that they are just in potentiality. It again goes back to that field of potentiality. They are there. They exist. They are always there. But it's how I sort of, an example, an analogy is, again, we talked about earlier in our interview about how the human sight is extremely limited. It doesn't mean that the other colors aren't there. If you look at a keyboard, you have a variety of letters to choose from to type whatever you want. But let's say your vision is so limited that all you can see is just the 3 letters in the middle. And that's all you're typing. So I relate that more to the junk DNA, the so-called junk DNA. It's not dormant, it's there. It's just because you aren't seeing it, you're not aware of it, and you've been told by mainstream academia, right, that it's junk, which was, in my opinion, was done on purpose, because people, when they hear junk, they think, oh, I don't need to think about it then, or oh, I don't need to worry about it. And meanwhile, that's exactly what you need to be looking at. And they have in their top secret military research facilities, there's science facilities underground and even above ground, the ones that you need special access or clearance to get into. They are very extensively studying this stuff. They tell you it's junk, they're on top of it.
Of course.
So it's not so much that it's dormant and latent. It again goes back to what Ola was saying, as above, so below. Once you essentially free yourself as much as possible here by correspondence, it automatically, or what's the term? Not synchronistically, but it's not simultaneously. Thank you. It allows you access to that, again, going back to the quantum field of unlimited potential, or at least inching your way up there.
Absolutely. And you see, if you sort of look back at what we've talked about, right, and a lot of my answers keep oscillating around the same, which is emotional state, which is the traumas, which is the programming that are keeping us in low vibrational state of guilt, shame, anger, frustration, fear, misery, etc., etc. So all that is, by the looks of it, at the core, right, of every single problem here. No wonder this matrix creates a mechanism to constantly keep us in these states, to keep us in these vibrations through the zodiac, because the zodiac is going to put you through repetitive, so-called challenges, lessons, which are going to, frustrate you, and it's going to make you sad, make you angry, make you miserable, disappoint you, etc., which is precisely what they want. They want to maintain low vibrational states. This is why they will also scare us through external factors, the news, the wars and all that, the pandemics, etc., and people will buy into that, staying in low vibrational state. So you see, this is like a Machiavellian plan delivered really, really well, but we're catching up. So now it's time to cut the cord and to, take everything that we know and start using it to, take this matrix down, get out of this, to really contribute to the end of this world, because this is the time of this knowledge coming back. So yeah, let's do what we came here to do.
Ragnarok.
Absolutely.
In our final segment of this interview, we are going to now look at a couple questions that I had personally from our first interview. What I am depicting here is a picture I just found online. Norway apparently is also called the land of the midnight sun. The sun never sets, at least in a certain time of the year. People say things like the sun doesn't set on, was it Rome or Britain? but it's really Norway, right? The sun doesn't set there. So
Absolutely. That's pretty much from here where I am. That's pretty much from beginning of May until August.
okay, so May to August season.
Yeah.
Very fascinating. Now, the questions that I had, and these will be the last two questions of our interview. When we first talked, we discussed the concept of Jesus's role in the, let's say, in the zodiac mechanism. Now, you mentioned in other interviews previously about the Pistis Sophia. Now, it could be, and it most likely is, because I haven't read it. I have the Pistis Sophia, but it's in a pile of books that I still haven't read yet because I bought so many on Amazon at the same time. And your next ebooks are, of course, going to add to that list. But there's a lot of books that I still have not read yet, and the Pistis Sophia is one of them. So obviously, you who actually has studied the Pistis Sophia, you have an understanding for it that I'd like more clarification on. Now, I started studying astrotheology earlier this year, and it has been a game changer in opening my eyes about not only the things like astrology and the zodiac and what it meant, what it really meant to the ancient esoteric mystery schools and the secret societies, Mithraic mysteries, you name it. But the concept of the 12 zodiac, and but not only the constellations, but the let's say the wandering stars, the planets, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So this is my question. According to your research, you state that in the Pistis Sophia, Jesus reduced humanity's, let's say, burden, or the strength of the zodiac mechanism. He reduced it by 1/3. I was confused about that in the first interview, and you
Right.
did explain it, but again, my analytical mind, I still have questions. Did he? And the only reason why is because it could be what I wrote here, that the Gnostics merely have a bias towards Jesus. How exactly did he reduce, or at least the concept of Jesus? Because again, it goes back to Dumuzi and all these figures in the ancestral narratives. How exactly did Jesus reduce the zodiac mechanism's hold over us by about 30 to 33%?
So I think we have to unpack a few things here. I think from the first interview, when we referred to Dumuzi and Jesus and the sort of story being repeated, that was the story of resurrection, as in the mysterium of resurrection, of death and then resurrection. That is not specific to Jesus, because back in the history we have Osiris, we have Dumuzi, we have also the Greek gods, and then we have Jesus at the end, and the theme of resurrection, and always a woman being present. So resurrection is to do with resurrection of the soul. And remember, back when we were talking about reincarnation and that soul fragmentation, that is where this is also connected. That part of resurrection is collecting fragmented pieces of the soul, but that is basically done literally in this lifetime. That is done through an alchemical journey, that is done through a journey to the underworld. So that is that aspect. In terms of astrotheology or Pistis Sophia, and you say that it was a game changer. Well, I don't know if people sort of are aware of, but And there are actually 7 levels of interpretation of sacred texts. There are sort of 7 aspects to consider when looking at sacred texts to really understand what is that about. And that's being astrology, astrotheology, gematria, sacred geometry, biology, eschatology, and finally alchemy, feminine alchemy, not matrix alchemy. And you see, there is a lot of people who might even be aware of all these levels, but the aspect of feminine alchemy is totally unknown. I have not seen pretty much anyone out there, whether that's the Gnostic sort of group of people who are studying the Gnostic text, or whether that's anybody who's studying the ancient text. I have not seen anyone with the understanding of feminine alchemy. And I would argue that feminine alchemy is the critical, crucial underlying tradition or sort of level that you need to comprehend in order to be able to unpack what you're looking at. Otherwise, it's just going to be an academic exercise. And specifically, when you look at these texts through all these lenses, and for someone who is an astrologer and reads Pistis Sophia, it is it's obvious. It is clear instantly that Jesus's sort of ascension through different levels describes ascension through the zodiac mechanism. It describes it literally you don't need interpretation. It says directly that Jesus's ascension or Jesus's sort of influence is reducing the strength of the planets, or perhaps should I say that predictability of the zodiac influence. It's reducing it by a third. That's what the text says. And I would probably suggest that something was done, that the retrograde movement of the planets was sort of added into that mechanism. I would imagine that in the past, originally, planets did not move in retrograde movement, because, mind you, retrograde, as we spoke before, has nothing to do with the actual retrograde as in backwards movement. It is a perceived backwards movement, which is what we see from our perspective. And apparently, originally, the horoscope casters could have their horoscope casted with 100% predictability, and after what Jesus done, it was reduced. They could not always predict. So the predictability, but also the influence of this mechanism was reduced. And to me, Jesus this is not a savior, okay? This is not about being a savior. Jesus is a male figure put in place to represent feminine alchemy teachings. So effectively, what we're being told here, what we're being explained here, is the feminine alchemy teachings and the context of those in overcoming matrix influences, in overcoming or in escaping the matrix in a sense. So that would be my answer here. That would be my clarification. It was not to say that Jesus saved us in that way, that he reduced sort of our suffering by 30%. That's not what it says. What it says is that he sort of confused this mechanism, and the effect of this mechanism upon humanity was reduced by a third. So that's I don't know if that's sort of more understandable this time round, but that's that would be my clarification.
So in terms of, like, we hear a lot about retrograde motion, prograde motion. Now, so in the New Age, in astrology circles, horoscope, people who are, very much into that, I hear a lot about, I don't pay attention to it, but I hear a lot about, oh, Mercury's in retrograde, and and that's somehow a bad thing. I believe the interpretation is it means that you're going to have trouble communicating with people. There's going to be disagreements. There's going to be stress. Oh, Mercury's in retrograde, or whatever planet is in retrograde. But what you're saying is retrograde motion can actually be for our benefit. That it's
No, I'm saying
predictable.
No, I wouldn't say that. I would say this is irrelevant. Whether it's I'm not saying that it's for benefit. I'm just saying that predictability or understanding the predictability of the zodiac mechanism was reduced by what happened, and I link it to retrograde movement. That's the predictability. And yes, of course there is a retrograde movement of the planets, but then we go back to what we spoke about before, which is the energies of the planets have been hijacked. Mercury specifically is ruling or connected to our minds, to our thinking function. So whatever, it doesn't matter if Mercury is direct or retrograde, it is still affecting, right, through the zodiac mechanism, it is still affecting our thinking and mind function. That is undesirable state. And I don't care if it's retrograde or not, because I don't want to be controlled by any mechanism. That's the sort of main takeaway. And of course, that goes on for all the planets. Every planet's energy has been hijacked, and it's been sort of harvested to fit this matrix. So for example, Jupiter is responsible for us, for our dogmatism, and for us sort of following some weird concepts and some weird, spiritual developments and ideas of that sort, and being totally confused about it. Yes, I know that you're gonna think, no, that's not what Jupiter does. I'm telling you an interpretation above astrology. I'm telling you what this matrix did. I'm telling you how this works, how the energy of the planets has been distorted and hijacked. So different planets are responsible and sort of affecting and distorting different things. And I wouldn't, this is not to say that retrograde is better than direct. It's not that. It's about reducing. I think it probably would be, when you read Pistis Sophia, you will see how that sort of plays out. How is that phrased? So I think it will be pretty clear what I'm kind of trying to explain, that it's the effect, it's the predictability that has been reduced. And I link it to retrograde movement because I don't think it was there originally.
But your argument is that that's a better thing.
No, my argument is that
it's less predictable.
That yes, in a context of predictability. So the horoscope casters back then that are referred to, I call them horoscope casters because that's exactly how it's going to be referred to in Pistis Sophia. The horoscope casters had full control. As in this mechanism had full control over us, and it was fully predictable, as in there was nothing that we could escape.
Right.
And this effect reduces that by a third. That's what the text says.
Exactly, which could be advantageous, because if someone can now, oh no, like I can't, my power, my strength, my ability to exactly predict your movements, your behaviors, your decisions if a controller, now has 1/3 less of an ability to do that.
Yeah.
Then what I'm from what I'm understanding, the Pistis Sophia is saying what Jesus did then is beneficial to humanity in terms of, he reduced it by 1/3, as compared to him not doing that, for example, or
yes.
that. So okay, so that's Okay. Okay. I mean uh that makes sense then. I guess it was just a whole,
Yeah,
obviously with
it
New
was
Age, they're
yeah,
always
it was
distorting things.
it was positive in a sense that obviously whatever he did, however that happened, and whatever that truly represents, means that there is a way to escape the zodiac mechanism, right? The effect and the influence of zodiac mechanism can be lessened, which is, don't we all want that, right?
Right. I think you explained it best when you essentially said that this entire figure of Jesus, this whole thing, is really essentially just um, an allegory. It's just to essentially represent the principles of feminine alchemy. It was a way to convey that message
Right.
through time in a way that people would, accept more potentially, rather than, if people would get offended
Right.
by a woman saying it.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
it's like, okay, well then let's create this Jesus figure. Oh, he did it, and now that the message can last through time, as opposed to being wiped out and lost, unfortunately, with the church and other groups burning books or banning books and messages, and things like that. Okay, that makes more sense in my mind. And the second question that I had was, it's not related to our first interview. It's just another question that I thought of. Um, well, of course, it is related to our first interview, but this topic didn't come up. But in, let's say, certain cultures and belief systems like Hinduism and Buddhism, and specifically, I'm thinking of texts such as the Shiva Purana. And I'm not 100% on that, so don't come after me if it's like it's not that one, it was the other one.
No.
I'm just well, just for the audience. I know you wouldn't, but for the audience, I believe it's the Shiva Purana that says something along the lines of, it had promotes this notion, this idea that it's better to incarnate as man, that incarnating as male is somehow necessary in order to qualify or be able to achieve liberation, this concept known as moksha,
Right.
to achieve that. But according to your research, Ola, the woman's body has certain secretions, or what you called in your Astronosis conference talk, secret ions, that can be beneficial for in our pursuit. Now, so what is your opinion on these philosophies, that believe that being reborn as a male is required for freedom from the false matrix? And please expand on exactly why you think, or suggest, or at least how I'm interpreting it, that being embodied as a woman is helpful to freedom from the matrix.
So again, I would take a step back, and what a surprise, right? That in the era of patriarchy, certain philosophies are promoting or asserting that it is necessary to be a man to achieve moksha. It's kind of, for a very long time we believe that woman doesn't have a soul, and woman is the work of a devil, right? So Eastern philosophies are very often quite patriarchal. So to me, again, some of those philosophies have been either distorted or misinterpreted, because it doesn't even make sense. Why would you be, it seems to be the echo of patriarchy, which is again promoting a man over woman. And it is not a question of how well a woman versus a man is equipped for certain things. A woman is a life giver. A woman is a sacred vessel. A woman has the womb of creation. A man does not. In every single story of that we know from ancient times, and I talked about this resurrection before, right? Resurrection is to do with exiting the matrix. It is to do with being able to restore yourself to wholeness, so that when you die, you can escape this realm. And women are the sort of the guardians of the grail. We are the ones who have the grail, and the grail is the portal. We are the wombs of creation. We are the ones who assist men on their journey, because they do not have the womb. We do. So this is not as much as a question of, who is better equipped, or what's the opinion here. It's a question of facts of, we are the life bringers. We are the ones who have sort of what it takes. That's how we are designed. And yeah, the secretions, of course, that's the medium of how things happen. But ultimately, it is the womb that differentiates whether somebody is built for this or not. So absolutely, it is a woman to connect, going back all the way back to the beginning of our conversation. It's women. It is women through the womb that are connecting to the field of plenty. It is women, and moksha, liberation. We don't need any moksha. We just need to escape this matrix. We just need to know how to leave the reincarnation cycle. And women know how to do that, because women as shamans would take this journey when they were alive. That's called resurrection. And later, in all these stories, all these men going through resurrection were assisted by a woman, because the alchemical teachings are very specific that a man cannot enter certain states and certain realms without being guided by a woman. Why? Because she has secretions. And secretions later, the gods, the archons, try to replace them with what? With ambrosia, with the fake kinds of drugs, to achieve certain states that women can achieve naturally, because this is part of our hormonal system, because we have secretions and they don't. So this is not to say that a woman can achieve something and a man can't. No, this is to explain the mechanism of it. As women, we have what it kind of takes to facilitate the process, if we can activate the alchemy, if we can truly step into alchemy, and then we guide the man. This is why in old traditions, a man needed to have a consort. A man without a woman was unable to run a kingdom. He was unable. Why? Because a woman was the medium to warrant fertility of the land, not just fertility for him, fertility of the land. So she was the one that sort of warranted that the kingdom had abundance and prosperity. So going back to the sort of stories of the from the days of sort of King Arthur and the Lady of the Lake, or other legends that talk about a man needing to have a consort. Why does a man need a woman? Why at every resurrection there is a woman present? Because it's the woman that has what it takes. We have the womb, and that is the womb of creation. Later, that womb of creation, and that, remember the blackness, right? That blackness, alchemy, blackness, and in the womb of creation we have a portal, and we're talking about the black hole. And when you look at pictures of the black hole, it kind of looks like an eye, black eye, and around it there is a spiral. which later in a lot of mythology becomes a well. In Norse mythology, everything always happens around the well. The well, it becomes a portal. That's the point of connection. That's the point of connection to that field of plenty. This is how a woman can access that. This is how a woman can access. She doesn't need, moksha is not a state. This is misunderstood. It is about exiting the matrix. It's about taking off the goggles. A woman, alchemical woman, in that connection as the tree of life, she's naturally reconnecting with the field of plenty, meaning she's not living within the bounds of this matrix telling her that she cannot do this, she cannot do that. She becomes, again, weaver of her own destiny. She becomes weaver of destiny for those around her. She becomes weaver of destiny for this realm, for this earth. So absolutely, it goes through the woman. If that explains it.
Ola, I have like 4 things to say. I started off with just having like maybe 1 thing to add. I have 4 things to add. Oh my goodness. First of all, Ola, I cannot tell you how excited, how thrilled I am that you brought up the concept of the well.
Oh, wow.
That was literally one of the first things when I was spontaneously having out-of-body experiences back in 2018 and 2019. One of the first things I noticed when I would go up above the clouds was I noticed these in a, not from the physical viewpoint, but from a higher spiritual viewpoint. What I noticed were these dips, these wells, you know, dotted and spotted throughout the atmosphere all over the world. Right. I'm like, what the heck are these? What the heck are these? And I mentioned this a little bit. I just briefly mentioned this in our last interview about the vortex or the spiral. Yes. Connected to everyone. I figured out that all of those wells, because I looked into one, I'm like, what the? I would keep seeing babies in them. I'm like, what is that? Those wells, those dips that are spotted throughout all the atmosphere, all of the like let's say the edge of the troposphere, all of those lead to every single woman at this moment who is pregnant. I could not believe it, and I was thinking of the of that scary movie or the horror movie, The Ring, where that scary child is coming out of the well. Mm-hmm. I don't know if in Poland you're familiar with that, but in America it was a big phenomenon. The Ring, the whole concept of the child coming out of the well. But how it looks like to me from that perspective here, from this perspective. A pregnant woman has this vortex, this gentle tornado, this gentle whirlwind, you know, that leads from, even if she's in physical, her belly is still flat, she's not showing yet, but already she has that vortex activated, that portal activated. Now, from the top, from like, let's say a bird's eye view, what it looked like to me, I just saw these dips everywhere. That's all the women who are pregnant right now. How it looked like to me were these wells, and what it looked like underneath were these, like that well, the hole led to this vortex, this spiraling vortex, all the way down to a woman that's probably just washing dishes or something in her home, or just at work in her office. I could not believe it when you just said now about the wells what culture did you say that was?
Oh, it's
probably everywhere.
these are the alchemical teachings. I mean, in the Norse mythology, for example, right? At the bottom of Yggdrasil, right? We have wells. The Norns where they reside, there's a well. There's always a well associated with a woman. So of course, you might have, in your experience, you might have seen these wells, and that might have been the most perhaps profound or easy to see, connected
Oh
to.
no, it was confusing. It was very confusing. I was like,
Okay.
what is this? But go ahead.
Yeah, but you see, it might have been in a context of pregnant women, because the womb, right, is a portal. Those babies, those souls, they need to come in from somewhere. So you have seen these wells, because these wells ultimately are, it's like, you know, the spirals, the vortex, right? These are the spirals, the wells through which things enter this realm. But it's not only children. These vortices, these wells, are really something that every woman has. It's just that the problem is that these should be connected, as that's the tree of life, that's the umbilical cord, that's the well that should have been connected to the lower world and to the upper world, because that's where we would be connecting to the field of plenty, to bring into this reality not just babies, but literally to materialize into this reality whatever we want, right? This abundance and prosperity. But this is, now we're talking about the kind of mechanics of this this whole sort of structure. When I say the tree of life, woman is a tree of life, yeah, connected across to the upper kingdom and to the lower kingdom. That's the wells. These are the wells or spirals, vortices, umbilical cords, however you want to call them, right? I mean, Eastern teachings are referring to this as well. It's just that we have lost these connections, or we have lost the ability to understand that we can bring into this reality not just children, but so much more.
When you talked about royalty, the ruling family, you know, a king always having a consort, I was studying about this too, and how what I found out that even if a king doesn't have a queen, that he would have, at least in ancient times, or I don't know if they still do this now, but he would have if he didn't have a queen, he would still have a council of wise women behind the
Right.
scenes that would, you know, be his oracles or seers, or if you will, and things like that. But because sometimes even if he does have a queen, she wouldn't be as, sometimes at least, wouldn't be as you know, certainly not as not knowledgeable as you, Ola, but
Oh,
but
I don't think so.
she would be more of the you know, the ceremonial, you know, representation of the
Yeah.
kingdom's, you know, woman, you know, whatever. But what you said was really striking, how, you know, the alchemist, you know, must also have a consort, but at the same time, in my research, and as you pointed out, the whole concept of, you know, they used to believe that a woman didn't have a soul. There are actually, and you might be aware, there are still groups today that believe that in a certain extent. There are still groups that or secret societies that are male only for a variety of reasons, but sometimes, unfortunately, it's because of this concept that we see in not only Christianity, but even here, like what I talked about with these Eastern philosophies in the Bible, where you hear things like, you know, anyone who lies with a woman, you know, is, I believe it was in the book of Revelation, the only ones that are going to be able to qualify are the 144 virgins who have not defiled themselves with women. You know, of course, then implying that it's male only, because you're saying don't defile yourself with women, you know. But the point was, unfortunately, there are groups I have found that believe that women are actually part of the matrix trap. They promote celibacy and not associating with women at all. That they believe, oh, women's attraction and our sensuality are, you know, attractive personalities, our smiles, whatever you want to call it, our fragrance, that is part of that's somehow our fault, and that we are somehow part of this trap that then entices men who are apparently the pure ones. They're the chosen ones, who, at least according to these groups, that men are in this fight of, oh, I must overcome the lure and the allure of the woman, and the woman is part of the matrix trap, and that it's up to the man, who's aware of this, to not engage in, the thing of, family and having children and settling down and associating in any way with women, because they believe that women are part of the matrix, that we're actually, some people would, the term nowadays is NPC. I don't know if you've heard of that.
Yeah, yes.
And I was shocked, to say the least, that there are literally some, ultra secret societies that believe that, that are male only, and believe that women, because they find us attractive, that's what's keeping them here. But there's also the groups that you talked about, the ones that say that no, and a male alchemist does need the feminine counterpart. So what do you say about those? I see this conflict going on. What do you say about that?
I mean, first of all, I don't understand what's a male alchemist, because alchemy is a domain of women, unless we're talking about matrix alchemy, and then males are mimicking women, which is not alchemy, it's mimicking.
I'm talking about the traditional, the not traditional, but the alchemy that we know, the alchemy that we've been told, presented.
And
that has been male.
Yeah, that's the matrix alchemy. So I'm not really interested in that, because that's just another matrix lie. That's just another matrix. The males wanted to mimic women. That's the whole point, that the archons mimic feminine rights. They distorted, corrupted our rights that belong to women, including creation, including that's what they do. That's exactly how this realm has been created. They observed women and they thought they can just start to mimic women and get the same results, but it doesn't work like that. So feminine alchemy cannot be performed by a man, because I'm sorry, you don't have the womb. And there's plenty of notions out there that are sort of brainwashing. The brainwashing is relentless. They're brainwashing people, or they're brainwashing men against women. Right now we have all this agenda with genders, and everybody's confused what they are. I mean, these are the end times. This is literally the time of them pumping and pulling all the strings of confusion and information overload. We don't have a problem with lack of information. We have a problem with too much information. We have a problem with everybody believing that they are an expert on something without actually having any credentials, or without having any real understanding of what they're talking about. So I think that we just have to be very careful. I mean, of course, in patriarchy, which we still are in raging patriarchy, especially now at the end times, they know that the age of Aquarius is about alchemical women returning. So of course, there's going to be a focus trying to deflect away from women, trying to, make women look bad, or associate women with the seed of the devil in all sorts of ways. But these are just pathetic practices. And when you know, doesn't even make sense on logical level, let alone on any other level. So yeah, there's not really much to comment other than that. I would say.
Yeah, that that's the example that I gave is obviously an extreme, but it's unfortunately on the rise. I understand that, there's the whole men's rights movement and things like that, but when it goes to the extreme that you think that all women now are NPCs, that's where it's like, okay, hold on, sir. you know. So it's one of these dangers that is
Yeah, but you see, to me, this is another clear example of trying to call women into fighting. When a woman starts fighting, when a woman engages into conflicts and fighting and actively fighting, defending herself, she's already lost, because she has entered a masculine energy. So to me, and the feminine teachings, this is the good thing. The feminine teachings, they say specifically that you don't have to worry, like, do not choose what you want to achieve, do not choose your intentions. You don't need to do that. All you need to do is focus on your alchemy, focus on getting back to that place of Pandora, right? Focus on going back to nature, focus on your blood, focus on yourself, and make sure that you are in the right state so that your alchemy can reactivate. When that happens, you don't have to worry. You don't have to think about who you need to fight, what sort of ridiculous agenda, new ones, are they pulling against us? That's irrelevant, because when you reconnect to alchemy, it starts flowing through you energies that are literally dissolving this matrix. They are dissolving the illusions. And what you're describing, and all these trends and agendas trying to fight women or invite women into conflict, into fight, these are just, the last resorts of the other side trying to desperately stay afloat. And I would just say, ignore that. Do your thing. That's been always the way for women. Do your thing. Do not get engaged. Do not engage in this nonsense.
Great advice. And the last point that I wanted to ask you about were the secret ions. So we talked about before the hormones and the secretions. Now, but your point was, it's not so much about the chemistry, it's about the alchemy. And I wanted to ask, now, obviously, as a biologist, I'm familiar with the various secretions that women and men have throughout their lives. Obviously, I named them earlier, but in your research or in your study, obviously I know just from the books, right, from what science, from what academia has, allows us, if you will, to know. Your concept here of secret ions, are there ions, hormones, secretions that we don't know about, that are also integral in this conversation? Is there something else going on, especially when you say that it's more about alchemy, not chemistry? We can list, of course, so many chemical hormones that's associated with and that fluctuates during certain times of a woman's cycle, certain stages, pregnancy, menopause, the interplay, the dance between oxytocin, endorphins, dopamine, serotonin, FSH, LH, everything and anything. These are known though. What are the secret ones that we don't know about?
Okay, so first of all, again, I think the issue is with alchemy, and of course I've been trying to dance between science and alchemy, but at some point you need to leave the mind. You need to leave the mind. Right now, this is not about doing a science or biology based list of secretions, because that's not how this happens. Okay, like I said, this is not chemistry. This is alchemy. So right now we are risking that we are looking at the trees and not seeing the forest. So this is not about whether there are secretions that we don't know about. There are actually, according to ancient teachings, over 1,000 secretions. Over 1,000. So I would bet we don't know half of them. That's not the point. It doesn't change anything. Knowing them is not going to change anything unless, again, back to the same point, unless you are in the right state. This is not chemistry. So, doing lab tests on all your hormones or secretions or whatever, not going to do anything. Let's take blood. Let's take menstrual blood, okay? The easiest thing. Every woman has the menstrual, or had at some point, the menstrual blood. It's a secretion, or it's one of those sacred substances that are probably maybe the most important in the whole alchemy. It is about the quality of that blood. It is about what kind of state, emotional state, spiritual state are you in, so that this blood is either alchemical or it's not. And there are, millions and billions of women in the world who have been bleeding. So why is this place still the way it is? Why don't we have a great world, right, full of abundance and happiness and prosperity? Because their blood is not alchemical. Why? Because these women are living in a state of sacrifice, anger, frustration, and all these low vibrational feelings. I mean, look at women around you. How many women, look at your mother, look at your sisters, look at your friends, look at your co-workers, etc. How many of these women are truly fulfilled? And by fulfilled, I don't mean boss babes in their, masculine era. I'm talking about women who are living out of internal peace, freedom, content, happiness, joy, bliss. Some women don't even know. Sometimes when I say bliss, they don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Some so I'm not talking about women who are achieving and overachieving and having amazing careers. That's not what I'm talking about. And being happy because she has just closed the deal. You're in your masculine energy. Yeah. If you don't understand what I'm talking about with the bliss and joy and happiness and peace and those qualities, then you're on the other side of the spectrum. So your blood is empty. So unless you are, because the secretions, right? Our hormonal system is connected to our emotions.
Yes.
And our emotions are reflecting something in our life, right? So if a woman is living, I don't know, being abused or used, or feeling like she is, saving everyone, or feeling like she needs to be running around and taking care of everybody, or maybe she's exhausted, she's overworked, she is constantly anxious, she's never taken care of, she doesn't feel safe, she feels like she's always on her guard, or maybe that she needs to play the mom in the relationship. These are all circumstances that are going to push a woman into certain states emotionally which are not supporting that alchemical activation. So her secretions, whatever they are, whether she knows them or not, it's irrelevant. It's irrelevant. That's the mind. The mind wants to know 1,001 secretions. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you have the list of them. It doesn't matter if you analyze them as a biologist. It doesn't activate your alchemy. What activates your alchemy is the state that you're in. It's the emotional state that you are in. It's the joy, it's the bliss, it's the freedom, it's the peace, it's the inner peace and happiness. It's that feeling of, fulfillment. But it has nothing to do with literally trying to break it down and analyze it. So when a woman is in that state, when she is not living out of fear and trauma and survival mechanism, and trying to maybe make everybody happy and running around like a headless chicken, sacrificing for everybody, and keeping peace, and being quiet, and all these kind of things, as you can imagine, none of that is going to truly agree with you internally. If that's the state you're in, then you are operating alchemically at a very low level. You still are operating, however, you are creating and birthing realities exactly the way this matrix wants you to, which are low vibrational realities, which is literally why this world is the way it is. We cannot lift out of this matrix. We cannot, we're not able to pump prosperity, abundance into this realm, but we are pumping what? Fear, jealousy, hopelessness, etc., etc. Right? This is why this world has been looking like this for centuries, for even millennia. This is a long time. So no wonder it is in matrix interest to keep us constantly in fear and low vibrational emotions, and chasing and responding, and like a hamster on a wheel. Because when a woman is kept in that state, well, she's not going to miraculously birth a super abundant reality, because that's not reflective of her inner state. So this is how it works, if that makes sense.
And being a hamster on the wheel, stresses you out to the point where it throws our cycles out of whack,
Well,
completely.
that's another point, right? That's another thing.
And, I really like what you said before about how, with PMS and the pain that so many women feel, and it's interesting because as a biologist, we know that pain signals are your body sending that signal to your brain saying, hey, something's wrong, pay attention. But somehow in the medical field, we sort of flip that back around. We sort of contradict ourselves, sort of a cognitive dissonance, saying, oh, the pain that you're going through, it's normal, it's expected during PMS. But what you're saying is, no, that's not normal for us to be feeling so much pain, so much dis-ease, right? So much there's this word for it, I can't think of it now, mal something. This just feeling horrible,
Absolutely.
That's the same thing. It's your body.
Be?
It's your body telling you, no, there's something wrong. There's something out of alignment. So, so the secret is, again, like you say, going back to that emotional state.
Yes.
Going back to what you said about harmony and bliss.
Yeah, and women need to be honest with themselves. Women really need to take the time to sit down, but it's more than just sitting down and taking that, although that's a good first step. Yeah. Slowing down, sitting down, and having a look at what do I know? What is my intuition telling me here? What is it that is really out of alignment here with me? Why am I so angry? Why am I so frustrated? And you know the answers to those things. You're afraid of those answers because those answers mean you need to do something about it, and you don't want to.
Right.
You don't want to. You want to escape it. You want to keep pretending it's okay. But guess what? Then you're gonna have a painful period, and then you're gonna have several more years of painful PMS and painful periods, and then you're gonna have endometriosis, or you're gonna have all sorts of other conditions of imbalance, and you're not gonna ever connect the dots.
It also doesn't help that, unfortunately, girls are raised, to be, at least many are raised to be people pleasers, that our survival is dependent on our ability to entertain, to please, to serve. And you know, people don't realize, I think, how much that affects the adult woman's psyche. You know, how she literally
Absolutely.
becomes what you said, the hamster on the wheel. And she's
Yeah,
like, well, I have to, because that's how I can keep my boyfriend. That's how I can keep this job. That's how I can keep surviving. That's how I can keep being a boss. That's how I can keep being alive.
absolutely.
What they don't understand is that's exactly what's killing them inside out.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's why I said that, we have to take a deep look at our programming,
Yes.
conditioning. I'm not
Yes.
saying it's easy, but everything that you said, the people pleasing, sacrificing, keeping everyone else happy, choosing everyone else before themselves, or overdoing, controlling, being a perfectionist and all that, which a lot of those behaviors are very much promoted these days, right? These are promoted by the culture, by the workplace. These are desired, very often desired behaviors, right? You need to be dedicated to your job. If you are operating at 150%, then that's better than 100.
Oh my
And
goodness. Oh my
right,
goodness.
yeah. So we are being literally groomed into a lot of behaviors that are specifically keeping us out of our alchemical aspect. And of course we are, this brainwashing, this programming is so subtle that unless you know how all this works together, you are going to fall prey. You are never going to be able to see it, unless maybe one day you're going to get so sick that you will just have to stop.
Yeah.
But then you're going to be focused on healing and fixing yourself and not really understanding what happened.
Right. Right. Hopefully with this conversation, we won't have to go there. It doesn't have to get that bad.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is also my intention with my ebooks, and with sort of trying to get through to women to, first of all, recognize the importance of a woman, to recognize who we are, as women. This is, please do not misunderstand that I'm kind of trying to say that women are more important than men. No, but we have suffered a little bit in patriarchy. We have been pushed, we have been subdued, and both women and men do not understand at all where is the sacredness of a woman and what is it about. So this is my purpose, to explain it, to kind of make it more accessible. And I truly believe that women who can discover, sometimes for the first time, the true beauty of being a woman and the true magic of being a woman, I think it could be a healing experience on many levels. So, just to be able to see that aspect of yourself, just to realize that about yourself, I think could be very empowering, very healing, and very helpful.
We will definitely look out for Ola's upcoming books in January, but of course, no pressure. We don't want you to feel out of alignment, trying so hard to get these books out on a certain, or these books published on a
That's a
certain
good
day.
point, right?
Let it flow. Let it come through.
Absolutely.
When it's going to come through. Ola can be found on selfmasteryquest.com. If you're interested in one of the Arctic tours in Norway, the Lofoten Islands, please visit mysticalarcticjourneys.com. Ola, I have enjoyed this conversation. This was our interview part 2, and this is just, I feel like we could continue on for at least another hour.
Well, it's been my absolute pleasure. I'm thinking whether this is going to have to become part 2 and 3, because we actually have been here for 4 hours.
Oh my god! Oh my goodness! Yes, we have. Well, the first part. Oh my goodness, we.
Yeah, we have. It's been 4 hours.
I was like, wait a minute, it has. It didn't even feel like that. Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, see, and that's exactly why I enjoy these conversations. time disappears.
Absolutely.
We tapped into that field, that quantum field.
Clearly, right? Clearly, we've been sucked into the vortex.
Ola, this has been wonderful, and thank you to the viewers for asking, these very great questions. Ola, I hope you have a great rest of your day or a wonderful rest of your night. And goodbye, everybody.
Thank you so much. Thank you for listening, for staying with us. All the best, everybody.